Chapter 590. Dongbua Shuang scanned his surroundings. His eyesight was extremely powerful, and he could easily see the boundaries of this world. This was a world with a diameter of over 200 billion kilometers. Other than the entrance that he had entered through, there were no other exits. This world was a smooth and flat land of sand, like a desert. There were no other objects in sight. A land of sand? Dongbua Shuaying's heart thumped as he descended. His feet landed on the ground, causing it to sink slightly, leaving behind 2 footprints. 3 Chieftains' Sacred Mountain. Previously, when I was fleeing for my life, the passageways that I had passed through were all indestructible. Yet, there's sand here. Dongbua Shuaying looked down. Let me see what's beneath this land of sand. A surging luminous sun force spread out, directly pushing away the sand below. Countless grains of sand were pushed away, and right below Dongbua Shuaying, a huge pit with a diameter of over 100 million kilometers appeared. As the majestic and dazzling white light spread out, countless grains of sand were pushed away, causing the pit to become deeper and deeper. The grains of sand were pushed away in all directions. Very quickly, it reached a depth of over 5,000 kilometers. The grains of sand were getting thicker and thicker. Dongbua Shuang discovered that the grains of sand below were no longer round and fine. Instead, they were thicker and thicker. In fact, they were even starting to look irregular, and not spherical. What's this? Dongbua Shuang waved his hand, and one of the thicker grains of sand landed in his hand. The thicker grains of sand were grayish-white in color. Dongbua Shuang exerted force. Despite his immense strength, the thicker grains of sand were incomparably sturdy, and were not damaged in the slightest. Continue. The majestic luminous sun force continued to push deeper, and the thicker the grains of sand were pushed away. The deeper he went, the thicker the grains of sand, and the weirder their shapes became. Dongbua Shuang gradually had some guesses. When he reached a depth of 60,000 kilometers, Dongbua Shuaying's expression changed. This was an incomparably huge black bone. Although he had pushed the pit with a diameter of over 100 million kilometers, he could only see a portion of the bone. Dongbua Shuang immediately manipulated his luminous sun force and started to drag the bone. Voila! The black bone was dragged into the air. It was 160 million miles long, and it was already broken. Moreover, there was a large amount of powder on the surface of the bones. The powder was grayish-white in color. The debris was none other than the thick gravel he had seen earlier. Could it be that this bone has been decomposed into countless grains of sand? Dongbua Shuang raised his head and looked at the vast gravel land. Is this vast gravel land made up of bones? Dongbua Shuang wanted to take the bone and store it in his Eden treasure. He had obtained the Eden treasure after killing the Howling Devil cult leader. Dongbua Shuang frowned. He tried to put the ancient bone away, but he felt an invisible force binding the bone, preventing him from putting it away. You still can't take him away? It's as though he has become one with the world. Dongbua Shuang shook his head and put the bone down. The moment he put it down, the black bone immediately sank into the ground, dragged by an invisible force to the bottom. Dongbua Shuang looked at the bottom of the deep pit. The thick gravel had been pushed away, revealing the bottom. The black bone was also at the bottom, and there was an extremely tough dark red membrane at the bottom. Break! Dongbua Shuang tried to attack. A strand of luminous sun force pierced through the dark red membrane, barely reaching a depth of a finger. As Dongbua Shuang retracted his strength, the crack on the membrane immediately closed up. Dongbua Shuang continued to fly and investigate other places. In the depths of this gravel land, there are indeed some remains that are being decomposed. Dongbua Shuang thought to himself, at the very bottom, there is a dark red membrane. Even with the Scarlet Cloud Spear, I could barely pierce it 100 meters deep. After retracting it, the crack on the membrane immediately closed up. Dongbua Shuang felt slightly anxious in his heart. Because the experts from the Dark Abyss could arrive at any moment, he did not dare to delay any longer. Let me hide the Blood Demon scripture first. With a thought, Dongbo Shuang flipped his hand and took out a blood-colored book. The book in his hand was like an endless sea of blood, emitting an evil and bloody aura. There was even a formless force that tempted him. If it was a weaker world deity, he might not be able to resist the temptation. Dongbo Shuang was more outstanding in terms of willpower. At the very least, he was able to resist the temptation. He hid the first half of the blood demon scripture in a storage treasure. After which, he wrapped the storage treasure with a treasure that could isolate it from detection. With that, he could easily disguise it, turning it into a dark red membrane. Break! The scarlet cloud spear stabbed out with all its might, piercing 100 meters deep into the membrane. He then threw the disguised treasure down, causing it to fall 100 meters into the crack. Following which, Dongbo Shuang kept his spear, and the crack closed up. If you have the ability, come and look for it. Dongbo Shuang chuckled. After entering the Three Chieftains' sacred mountain for so long, he finally found a suitable place to hide the blood demon scripture. South, Dongbo Shuang continued flying into the distance. Pa pa pa. Suddenly, raindrops began to fall from the sky. It's raining. Dongbo Shuang raised his head and looked at the sky in astonishment. Indeed, it was raining. Moreover, the amount of rain seemed to be increasing rapidly. Dongbo Ying's expression changed slightly as he looked at the black armor covering his body. The falling raindrops easily pierced through the luminous sun force surrounding Dongbo Ying's body. One must know that in such a dangerous place, one's body would normally be protected by a layer of energy. However, these raindrops had easily pierced through the layer of luminous sun force and landed on the black armor. Chi 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 sounds could be heard as the black armor began to show signs of damage. Even the black armor is being damaged? Dongbo Shuang immediately thought of the skeletons he had discovered before. Those skeletons were indestructible, but there was indeed a lot of damage on the surface of those skeletons. Could it be that the rainwater is causing the skeletons to disintegrate? Boom, boom, the rain was getting heavier and heavier. Only a single breath's worth of time had passed since the raindrops began to fall. However, the rainwater seemed to be pouring down from the heavens and earth. Soon, water began to accumulate on the vast sandy ground, and the amount of water was rising at a speed visible to the naked eye. Chi chi chi, the black armor covering Dongbo Ying's body was also being damaged. Fortunately, the black armor was extremely tough, and could still hold on for a little longer. Furthermore, Dongbo Shuang was also constantly circulating his energy to repair it. Hurry up and hide. Dongbo Shuang no longer flew and immediately dove down. After passing through the 1 chi deep layer of water and the incomparably dense layer of gravel, he continued drilling downwards. After drilling for a depth of 60,000 li, he finally came into contact with the dark red thick membrane. This was already the deepest part, and the water had yet to seep through. Break for me. Dongbo Shuang executed his spear arts and pierced in furiously. At the same time, his entire body took the opportunity to drill in. After piercing 100 meters deep, Dongbo Shuang also directly drilled 100 meters deep into the dark red membrane. He could feel that the dark red membrane was enveloping him with a suppressive force, but he was still able to withstand it. Dongbo Shuang continued to stab with his spear at a depth of 100 meters. However, it was clear that it was much more difficult now. After trying for a long time, he managed to drill another 20 meters or so deeper, and he could no longer stop. After all, the deeper he went, the tougher the membrane became. Let's do it here. With a flip of his hand, Dongbo Shuang took out the Eden treasure left behind by the Howling Devil cult leader. The Eden treasure immediately transformed into the appearance of the dark red membrane. South. Dongbo Shuang disappeared into thin air, leaving behind only the Eden treasure disguised as an extremely tiny substance. The surrounding dark red membrane immediately wrapped around this tiny substance. The Eden treasure is extremely proficient in isolating detection. It has already isolated an area of 10 million li. If anyone wishes to find me in this area, they would have to penetrate deep into the membrane one by one. It is not an easy task to search for me in an area of 10 million li. Dongbu Shuang was rather confident. He had only managed to pierce so deep because he had stared at one spot and stabbed furiously. To create a hole 10 meters deep in the membrane in one go would be thousands of times more difficult than creating a crack on his own. Most likely, only a venerable would be able to do it. Even if he managed to penetrate 10 meters in one go, to search the entire area of 10 million li, how long would that take? Furthermore, Dongbu Shuang would not be so foolish as to leave his Eden treasure at the center of the chaotic area. He was still 3 million li away from the center of the isolated area. Unfortunately, the experts of the Dark Abyss did not know of this. Within the Eden treasure, there were countless life forms living within the Eden world, all of them worshipping the Howling Devil cult leader. Artifact Spirit, from today onwards, sever the faith of the Howling Devil cult leader from within this Eden world. Dongbu Shuang was very displeased and immediately ordered. He did not have the time to do such things. Yes, Master. The artifact spirit acknowledged the order. Dongbu Shuang immediately found a patch of grassland and isolated the surrounding 5 million li, turning it into his cultivation ground. It should not be that easy for venerables to find me, but I cannot say for sure. After all, I cannot predict their methods. Dongbu Shuang sat cross-legged on the vast grassland. Then let's wait and see. Let's see if I become a stage 4 world deity first. Or if they find me first. If he was found first, then he could only accept his fate. In the Crimson Rock Mountain world of the Xia people, his wife, Jing and Dongbu Shuang were still chatting and eating in a restaurant. Snow Eagle, the number of Abyss sovereigns heading to the Three Chieftains' sacred mountain is increasing. Jing was also keeping abreast of external news. Her father, Monarch Mo Shua, was also receiving news from various sources. Clearly, the situation within the Three Chieftains' sacred mountain was becoming more and more tense. More and more experts from the Dark Abyss were gathering there. Everyone was even guessing how long His Highness Dongbu would last before he was captured or killed. Don't bother with them. Dongbu Shuang raised his cup of wine and drank it all in one gulp. He then stood up and said, "Let's go." Go? Jing was startled. The two of them had remained in the material world. Where would they go? I'm preparing to enter closed-door cultivation. I won't come out until I become a stage 4 world deity. Dongbu Shuang said. As for my avatar in the Three Chieftains' sacred mountain, I can only blame my bad luck for getting caught. He had already done everything he could. Now, he could only rely on his luck. Moreover, this experience had made Dongbu Shuang realize that roaming the outside world while weak was truly too tiring. Even a stage 4 world deity could suppress him in terms of world energy. His realm was inferior. In truth, he had already felt mentally and physically exhausted back at Lake Heart Island. After all, the feeling of having to face danger with every step wasn't all that great. However, he was truly unable to cultivate leisurely until he became a stage 4 world deity before going to save Eternal Wind. He was afraid that Eternal Wind would not be able to hold on, which was why he chose to enter the Dark Abyss. I've already done everything I could. I won't do such a strenuous and mentally exhausting thing anymore. I'll focus on cultivating until I become a stage 4 world deity first. Dongbu Shuang had thought things through very clearly. In the following days, he would lay low. The next time he came out, he would no longer be so easily bullied. End of third watch. Chapter 591. In the world where Dongbu Shuang was hiding, a figure flew in and stood in midair. It was a handsome man dressed in silver-white armor. He was also the White Sovereign King, who had an extremely high position in the entire Dark Abyss. He's actually hiding here. White Sovereign King looked over. Boundless rainwater poured down. It was originally a sandy land, but now, it had become a vast ocean. The water was already 1,000 meters deep. Those fools are truly useless. They actually couldn't stop him. They let him enter the demonic whirlpool and even come to this vast water world. White Sovereign King stepped on the void and flew at high speed. Relying on karma, he could confirm that there was a chaotic and blurry region of 5 million kilometers not far away. Without a doubt, Dongbui Shuang was definitely hiding in this region. Flying high in the sky, the surrounding rainwater poured down, yet it was unable to touch White Sovereign King. There was a layer of blood aura surrounding his body, isolating him from the rain. Very soon, White Sovereign King flew to the region of 5 million kilometers where Dongbui Shuang was hiding. Within this region of 5 million kilometers, any place could be where Dongbui Shuang is hiding. White Sovereign King frowned. He slightly extended his right hand. Hong, a surging and terrifying blood aura surged downwards. In an instant, it spread out, enveloping the region of 5 million kilometers. It enveloped all the water in the region of 5 million kilometers. Not only that, after the puddles of water floated up, it revealed the sandy land below. The sandy land was similarly enveloped by the blood aura. Countless puddles of water converged into a huge water ball. And the sandy land in the region of 5 million kilometers and 60,000 kilometers deep was completely enveloped by the blood aura. It also floated up, revealing the dark red, thick membrane below. Because of the isolation and protection of the blood aura, no rain could invade this place. Hong Long Long, White Sovereign King only had a thought, and that huge water ball trembled. Every single drop of water trembled and even continued to shatter. Nothing. White Sovereign King instantly judged. With a wave of his hand, the water ball was thrown far away. What floated up next was an even larger sandy land. It was 5 million kilometers and 60,000 kilometers deep. How big was it? There were even some larger black bone fragments that were pulled out. Break! White Sovereign King's eyes flashed with a cold light. Instantly, under the assault of the blood chi, countless grains of sand began to shatter into even finer particles. Even some of the incomparably tough black bone fragments began to break and shatter. Very quickly, they were shattered into countless black fragments. The contrast with the other grayish-white gravel was also very clear. No. The White Sovereign King shook his head slightly. The countless fragments were also thrown far away, landing in the puddles of water far away. He really is hiding in this thick membrane. White Sovereign King felt a headache. He tried to press down. Under the pressure of the fiendish blood chi, the dark red thick membrane that was about 100 meters in radius was pressed down to a depth of 60 meters. If he hides in the depths, even if we suppress him, it will only make his hiding place deeper. The White Sovereign King shook his head. He then extended his right hand, and a sword appeared in it. He brandished the sword with a single hand and simply slashed downwards. Hong Long Long, countless sword lights descended, forcefully destroying everything as if they were dried twigs and smashed rotten wood. The dark red membrane within 100 meters was destroyed to a depth of about 150 meters. This depth of dark red membrane was completely destroyed into nothingness. This terrifying strike, if Dongbui Shuang were to see it, he would be stunned. After all, he had used his spear to stab in, and even after so many times, he only managed to penetrate 120 meters deep. After all, Dongbui Shuang was still using the strength of an ordinary true god to speculate about a paragon. He did not understand how special it was to open one's own Dao path. Furthermore, the White Sovereign King, who was famous for his slaughter, had an extraordinary status. With his strength, he should be able to penetrate 100 meters deep. I have to reach such a depth in one strike to have confidence. The White Sovereign King shook his head lightly. This time, it's only this big. How long would it take to cover a distance of 5 million kilometers? That would be a very long time. If it was an extremely important object, the White Sovereign King might even spare no effort to destroy it. Even if he had to spend 100 million years, he would still be willing. As an expert, he was very patient. However, the allure of the blood demon scripture to the White Sovereign King was ultimately too small. The first half of an absolute art could only be cultivated by those below the true God realm. Furthermore, at the level of the White Sovereign King, even a complete absolute art would not have much allure to him. Unless it was a very special absolute art. For example, the strongest defense absolute art of the Army of Destruction. It was created by the #1 expert of the many Cosmos epics, the Lake Heart Island Master, for his subordinates. Defense was naturally very important on the path of cultivation. Only by living long would one be able to walk far. It was a pity that joining the Army of Destruction was too difficult. Other than Pang Yi, only Dongbui Shuang had barely passed. Dongbui Shuang had only passed the soldier grade test. As for the blood demon scripture, to the White Sovereign King, he could at most use it as a reference. From there, he could peek into the methods of the ancestor devil, who was second only to the Lake Heart Island Master. On the other hand, he could use the original copy to impart it to his disciples. At the very least, it would be more than enough for those below the true God realm to cultivate the first half. But that was all there was to it. Who? The White Sovereign King left the three chieftains' sacred mountain. With a step, he arrived high up in the clouds. Naturally, a cloud chair and a cloud table appeared above the clouds. The White Sovereign King began to leisurely drink by himself. His domain easily covered the entire layer of the Abyss world. As long as Dongbui Shuang came out of the three chieftains' sacred mountain, he would definitely not be able to escape. As for Dongbui Shuang's strength, the White Sovereign King did not care. The White Sovereign King has given up. A figure appeared beside him. It was a black-robed bird-headed man. This bird-headed man's eyes were suffused with a golden light. The first 50 layers of the Abyss world are my territory. This time, the first half of the blood demon scripture is also mine. The White Sovereign King raised his wine cup and said indifferently, "Devil Kite, the other paragons are not participating. You sure have guts." He he. Paragon Devil Kite laughed, his voice ear-piercing. White Sovereign King, whoever obtains this treasure will naturally depend on their strength. Furthermore, the first half of the blood demon scripture is currently in Dongbui Shuang's hands. It cannot be considered yours. Humph. The White Sovereign King swept his gaze over him, too lazy to bother with him. He simply looked down on this Paragon Devil Kite. If they were to fight face to face, he would be able to deal with Paragon Devil Kite in 3 moves. However, Paragon Devil Kite could not possibly fight him face to face. After all, the Tao that Paragon Devil Kite had opened was not related to killing, but to escaping. Thus, Paragon Devil Kite was extremely proficient in escaping. If he wanted to escape, forget about the White Sovereign King, even the stronger Heavenly Emperor of Great Destruction would not be able to do anything to him. This sort of paragon who could not be killed and was proficient in escaping, the White Sovereign King could only pretend that he did not exist. The blood demon scripture is in the vast water world. If you want it, go ahead. The White Sovereign King raised his head and drank another cup of wine. With a single move, he could scan 100 meters of the dark red membrane. However, Paragon Devil Kite was not proficient in fighting, so he could only scan a meter at most. He, for the blood demon scripture, it's not worth it. Paragon Devil Kite's words were pretty, but in truth, he did not want to lose face. Furthermore, his scanning speed was too slow. Chapter 592. Within the three chieftains' sacred mountain, within the Eden world. Dongbui Shuang sat cross-legged on the grassland. In front of him were 3 items, a scarlet red wristband, a long black whip, and a huge axe. These 3 items were obtained when he discovered the frozen corpse of Paragon Dust Cloud back at the Lake Heart Island. That mysterious paragon was extremely proficient in the aspect of spacetime, and the 3 top-grade world deity weapons he created were all related to spacetime as well. I should properly study these 3 world deity weapons. Dongbui Shuang thought. Although he had the detailed guidance of his master, Blood Blade, regarding the spacetime deity heart, Dongbui Shuang still wanted to study these 3 world deity weapons and comprehend the heaven and earth. After that, he would verify his master's guidance and combine them together to cultivate. This scarlet red wristband excels in trapping enemies. Dongbui Shuang carefully sensed the array within it. This was a weapon that could trap enemies within, and its usage of spacetime was extremely profound. It had even surpassed the scope of the spacetime deity heart. This long whip is quite unique as well. Dongbui Shuang also picked up the long black whip. There was also an array within the whip, and when it attacked, it would naturally guide the surrounding spacetime, forming a domain that could be used to trap enemies. The axe is the most tyrannical. Dongbui Shuang looked at the huge axe. When it attacked, it would cause spacetime to break apart, and its power was extremely terrifying. However, Dongbui Shuaying's comprehension towards spacetime was too low. Let alone now, even if he grasped hold of the complete spacetime deity heart, it would still be extremely difficult. Clearly, it was extremely difficult for him to truly comprehend the profound mysteries of the array within the huge axe. Clearly, that dead paragon had the goal of refining these three unique weapons into true god weapons. However, due to the limitations of the materials used, they were ultimately only top-grade world deity weapons. Nevertheless, they were still extremely unique. Let's begin. Dongbui Shuang began to study these three unique world deity weapons, focusing all his attention on the Tao of spacetime. Dongbui Shuang went into closed-door cultivation, which made the abyssal monarchs helpless. The vast water world was still very dangerous to the abyssal monarchs. Some of the stronger ones came in to explore, but when faced with the dark red, thick membrane that spanned tens of millions of miles, they all gave up. After all, their exploration speed was even slower. Even if they spent hundreds of millions of years, they would only be able to explore a small area. Hundreds of millions of years? With Dongbui Shuaying's cultivation speed, it would be normal for him to transcend and become an almighty being. Everyone knew their limits and began to give up on searching. As time passed, Dongbui Shuaying had been hiding and refused to come out. None of the abyssal sovereigns gathered at the Three Chieftains' sacred mountain managed to reap any rewards. In fact, 6 abyssal sovereigns even lost their lives to the dangers of the ancient ruins. Of course, it was only the loss of a doppelganger. In the Dark Abyss and the God World, although the top experts of the Dark Abyss and the God World often fought each other, because they all had avatars, most of them would lose an avatar. It was rare to see someone die like Sacred Lord Crimson Dust. They actually couldn't find him. Dongbui Shuang is hiding in the Three Chieftains' sacred mountain of the Dark Abyss, and the sovereigns of the Dark Abyss are actually unable to find him. Interesting. His Highness Dongbui is also quite good at hiding. But if he keeps hiding, he'll eventually come out. The moment he comes out, he won't be able to escape. This news spread to the deity world. The powerful existences and stage 4 world deities of the deity world were all discussing it. Regardless, the Three Chieftains' sacred mountain gradually calmed down. The majority of the abyssal sovereigns directly left this layer of the Dark Abyss and returned to their own territories. Only a few were unwilling to stay behind. The deity world and the Dark Abyss began to pay less attention to this matter. In the blink of an eye, 150,000 years had passed. Within the crimson stone courtyard of the Bloodshed God Palace, within the cavern dwelling of Dongbui Shuang, Jing Qiu, Monarch Mo Shua, and the others were currently living here. Dongbui Yu, Dongbui Qingyao, and the others would occasionally come here. Mother. Dongbui Yu, Dongbui Qingyao, and the others were currently standing shoulder to shoulder. Jing Qiu and Monarch Mo Shua were seated to the side. The current Jing Qiu's aura had become even more extraordinary. Her body was faintly emitting a terrifying sharpness. She was constantly communicating with the deity sword within her body. After cultivating for so many years, Jing Qiu had successfully refined a true god weapon. Her grasp of the laws of the world had also deepened. She had grasped several profound mysteries related to the deity sword, and her grasp of the incomplete heart-sword diagram had also deepened. Her combat power had naturally increased, and even though she was still lacking compared to Monarch Mo Shua, she was extremely close. If she were to use a true god weapon, even Monarch Mo Shua would not be her opponent. This was the frightening aspect of a true god weapon. Qin Yao. Jing Qiu smiled and praised, "Not bad. You didn't use faith stones, Yet you were able to become a world deity at such a young age. That's not bad. Compared to father and mother, I'm still lacking. Dongbua Qingyao was extremely graceful, and she was very obedient in front of her mother. What she said was not false. Whether it was Dongbua Shuang or Jing Qiu in her previous life, they both became world deities very quickly. Humph. Dongbua Yu curled his lips, don't be modest. Knowing that you became a world deity earlier, you're very proud. Dongbua Qingyao was originally very obedient, but at this moment, the corners of her mouth curled upwards. She glanced at her younger brother, and her expression became even more proud. Dongbua Yu was very unhappy, but he had nothing to say. Jing Qiu smiled as she watched from the side. This pair of brother and sister were born together, and their relationship was extremely good. Whether it was in the Xia people's world or in the Crimson Rock Mountain world, they were always together. Even though they had gone through many years of tempering, and their temperament was already extraordinary. But when the two of them were together, they would casually bicker and mock each other. This had long become a habit. Cultivation cannot be rushed. You need to be patient. Jing Qiu said. Monarch Imo Shui also said, I think you should relax your mind. Perhaps it will be of help. Yes, grandfather. Dongbua Yu nodded. Because he worshipped his father so much, Dongbua Yu was still very hardworking in his cultivation. Now that he knew his mother's identity, and Jing Qiu was living in the Bloodshed God Palace, she no longer needed to hide it from her children. When Dongbua Shuang returned as a stage 4 world deity, he would naturally resolve the enmity between his wife and forefather Golden Firmament. Father hasn't appeared for a long time, Dongbua Yu said helplessly. He's in closed-door cultivation. Don't be anxious, Jing Qiu said. It had been 150,000 years since they had hidden in the Three Chieftains' sacred mountain. Calculating the time, Dongbua Shuang had cultivated for more than 210,000 years. At the very least, it was certain that he would not break the record for becoming the fastest stage 4 world deity. The fastest in history was achieved by the Temporal Island Lord in a little over 180,000 years. I wonder how far Snow Eagle has cultivated. Jing Qiu was quite concerned, but even his true body in Crimson Rock Mountain was in closed-door cultivation. She could not see him, nor did she dare disturb him. Three Chieftains' sacred mountain, within the Eden world. Dongbua Shuang was currently standing on top of a tall mountain, a scarlet wristband in his hand. With a wave of his hand, the scarlet wristband flew out and into the air. The wristband seemed to contain the flow of spacetime within it as it swallowed a chain of mountains in the distance. The chain of mountains immediately trembled, and soon, the entire mountain was uprooted and flew towards the scarlet wristband. The closer it got, the smaller it became. In the end, the entire mountain shrank to the size of a tiny dot and flew into the scarlet wristband. The scarlet wristband flew back into Dongbua Shuaying's hands. I can finally activate it. Dongbua Shuang revealed a smile, then continued immersing himself in the array of the scarlet wristband. Of the three unique world deity weapons, this scarlet wristband was the easiest for him to comprehend. This was because while it contained the profound mysteries of spacetime, it also contained many profound mysteries of the world. This made it slightly easier for Dongbua Shuang to comprehend it. After 150,000 years, he was finally able to truly activate the power of the spacetime array within it. Of course, he had only activated a trace of it, and had yet to fully grasp it. However, this trace of activation allowed Dongbua Shuang to understand many things. Filled with joy, he continued to immerse himself in his research. A short while later, faint gray shadows began to appear in the surroundings. Even the surrounding mountains and plains began to distort as countless shadows appeared. These were shadows of different timelines. Dongbua Shuang stood at the peak of the mountain. He finally regained his senses from his comprehension of the scarlet wristband. Only now did he realize that while he was comprehending the spacetime array, he had unknowingly grasped the spacetime deity heart. Grasped it? The corners of Dongbua Shuaying's lips finally curled upwards, revealing a smile. Chapter 593. Standing on the mountain peak, with the mountain breeze blowing on his body, Dongbo Shuang looked at the vast world in front of him. In the distance, there was a vast grassland. At the end of the grassland, there were even farmlands and houses. There were countries, transcendents, deities. Dongbo Shuang could faintly see a long river. Within the river, countless humans, demonic beasts, and other life forms were sinking. There were also deities and even world deities. Dongbo Shuang could even feel himself. He was like a towering giant. Half of his body was already on the surface of the river, and he could easily look down on the countless life forms around him. It was just that this river seemed to have an unintentional pulling force that was binding him. He was unable to escape from this river. River of Time. Dongbo Shuang nodded lightly. After grasping the space-time deity heart, he could finally see the River of Time. In the legends, there were countless life forms within the River of Time. Even those who had already died still existed. As long as they had existed since the birth of the universe, as long as they had yet to transcend. Then this River of Time contained their existences. As for Dongbo Shuang and the other cultivators, their first goal was to transcend the River of Time and truly become an eternal existence. Otherwise, they would be affected by the River of Time and sink into oblivion. The laws of the heaven and earth are so orderly. Dongbo Shuang looked at the beautiful scenery around him. In his eyes, it was no longer beautiful scenery. Instead, it was the operation of countless laws. Every core law was like a zither string. They formed a zither of the laws of the heaven and earth. And Dongbo Shuang had already grasped 4 of these zither strings. Just these 4 zither strings alone were enough for him to play a beautiful melody. It was like a huge bridge with 9 pillars. But in reality, these 4 pillars were already sufficient to support the entire bridge. After grasping 4 grade 1 deity hearts, Dongbo Shuang's understanding of the laws of the heaven and earth naturally reached an extremely high level. Moreover, the 4 grade 1 deity hearts were the core essence of the heaven and earth. By corroborating with each other, Dongbo Shuang started to gain some insights into the other grade 1 deity hearts. This was what it meant to comprehend by analogy. When one's realm reached a sufficiently high level, the next step would be to comprehend the other deity hearts in one go, and that would be the extremely mysterious karma deity heart. Dongbo Shuang had already begun to comprehend it. Perhaps it would be very difficult to comprehend the complete karma deity heart, but comprehending a large part of it was still very easy. Jing Qiu, for example, had comprehended more than half of it and was able to use karma to sense others. The world was like a ball of yarn made of countless threads. It seemed very complicated and confusing. But once he grasped the 4 main threads, it would be very easy to straighten out the entire ball of yarn. I've finally reached this step. Dongbo Shuang smiled, but if I were to go out with this bit of strength, I'm afraid that even Emperor Qi Hai and the other extremely powerful existences would be able to trample on me. Realm was the foundation. But in the end, what revealed one's true strength was the cultivation of spear arts, secret arts, absolute arts, etc. It would be extremely difficult to cultivate the 4th volume of the luminous sun, to the 4th level, or the extreme annihilation mysterious body, to the 4th level. Dongbo Shuang understood this point very well, but the laws and profound mysteries required to cultivate the luminous sun, and the extreme annihilation mysterious body, are slightly different. I should be more inclined towards the extreme annihilation mysterious body. Even if the luminous sun reached the 4th volume, he would still die if he went out this time. Reaching the 4th circulation of the 4th volume was indeed very powerful. It would allow one to reach an extremely powerful stage among powerful existences and touch the threshold of the Paragon realm. Most likely, it would be very close to the 9-yang palace head, purple-gowned Hex sovereign, and the others, but only close. If he wanted to match them, he would still be a little lacking. Because 9-yang palace head was the disciple of the temporal island lord and was also a powerful existence, he also had an absolute art. The gap between stage 4 and powerful existences was very small. After all, Stage 4 cultivators with deep accumulations would have nearly comprehended all of the laws of the heaven and earth. The gap between them and powerful existences in terms of realm was very small. For example, the fourth volume of the luminous sun would allow one's strength to be comparable to the fifth volume of the luminous sun. The only difference was that the laws used were different. The fourth volume of the luminous sun used scattered laws and profound mysteries, while the fifth volume used the complete laws of the heaven and earth. Thus, it would be relatively easier to cultivate at the second transformation. Once he reached the fifth volume's third transformation, he would be able to surpass the fourth volume's fourth transformation. As for the fifth volume's fourth transformation, once he reached it, he would definitely have opened his own Tao and would already be a paragon realm existence. Therefore, Dongbo Shuang was certain that Nine Yang Palace Head, Purple-Gowned Hex Emperor, and the rest would still be a step away from opening their own Tao. Although the luminous sun is powerful and can greatly increase my strength and speed, I will still be beaten to death if I face an encirclement. Dongbo Shuang was very clear on this point. Moreover, there is still the White Sovereign King outside. If I want to live, I have to cultivate the extreme annihilation mysterious body. Dongbo Shuang thought. The extreme annihilation mysterious body was the most heaven-defying defense he had ever seen. Currently, he was only at the third level of the extreme annihilation mysterious body, yet his defense was already so strong. Once he reached the fourth level, anyone below the Paragon realm would probably not be able to injure him. Furthermore, the extreme annihilation mysterious body would also allow him to possess extreme strength and speed. Calm down and take it slow. Dongbo Shuang was very clear that the difficulty of cultivating the fourth level of the extreme annihilation mysterious body was not any lower than the fourth transformation of the luminous sun's fourth volume. It would definitely take a longer period of time. The fourth level of the extreme annihilation mysterious body had already begun to display the strength of this absolute art. However, as it became more profound, the luminous sun and the extreme annihilation mysterious body began to advance in different directions. The luminous sun cultivated energy, the luminous sun force. The extreme annihilation mysterious body cultivated matter, the body, and the armor. The two were completely different. Therefore, in order to save time, Dongbo Shuang could only choose one of the two and focus on one direction first. Dongbo Shuang knew that the fourth level of the extreme annihilation mysterious body was very difficult. However, when he truly began to cultivate it, he felt that the difficulty was beyond his imagination. Dongbo Shuang had become a stage 4 world deity. Moreover, he was concentrating on cultivating the extreme annihilation mysterious body. Outside the three chieftains' sacred mountain, above the cloud layer. Cloud table, cloud chair. White Sovereign King sat there, drinking fine wine and looking at the world, admiring every bit of beauty in it. South, a figure suddenly appeared beside him. It was a green-robed madam. This madam had the appearance of a human and was extremely beautiful. She carried a divine sword on her back, and her aura was restrained. White Sovereign King looked at this green-robed madam and could not help but be slightly startled. He actually became slightly reserved. He immediately smiled and said, "Monarch has arrived. Please take a seat." The green-robed madam smiled and sat down. Old White Devil. The corner of White Sovereign King's eyes twitched slightly. There were not many people in the entire Dark Abyss who dared to call him Old White Devil in front of him. The only person who could make him unable to get angry was this person in front of him. "Monarch, what's the matter?" White Sovereign King smiled. "Old White Devil, you are truly carefree. For the sake of a useless absolute art, you have always been here." The green-robed madam shook her head. "Since I'm bored, I can pass down the absolute art to my disciple. I can also exchange it for some treasures with great destruction." White Sovereign King said. The green-robed madam solemnly said, "Let me tell you a big matter." "Big matter?" White Sovereign King tensed up. And then the green-robed madam nodded. "While you were carefree, ruler brought me and the witch, along with the deity world's blood blade and overlord destruction. She began to explain in detail. Ruler Nile and blood blade? White Sovereign King listened attentively. The temporal island lord is indeed the most treacherous and cunning. He is everywhere. This time, we were schemed against by him. He, the myriad god palace head, and Empress Qian he worked together to kill ruler Nile, and all the treasures in his hands were snatched away. Mai and the witch's clones also died in battle. Overlord Destruction also died in battle. Only Blood Blade managed to escape after fighting 1 against 3, said the green-robed madam. What? Ruler Nile died? White Sovereign King was shocked. Although it was only a clone that died, one of the 3 great abyss rulers, Blood Ruler and Nile, had actually lost a clone. One could see how intense the battle was. Empress Qian he and Blood Blade have an extremely good relationship, but they actually fell out this time. White Sovereign King shook his head. Isn't it normal for them to fall out because of benefits? The green-robed madam shook her head. These rulers, which one of them doesn't want to be the first to take that step? What treasure is it exactly? White Sovereign King asked. I'm not sure. I only saw a 3-legged cauldron emitting a bloody aura. I guess it should be related to Ancestor Devil. The green-robed madam said, Ruler Nile is very angry, extremely angry. He cursed the temporal island lord. With Ruler Nile's temper, we might start a war with the temporal island lord in the next few years. White Sovereign King lightly sneered. Among the 3 rulers of the Dark Abyss, Ruler Nile is the weakest, but he is the most violent one. What a joke. The green-robed madam saw the situation and said, it's better to be more respectful towards rulers. If you have any trouble, feel free to look for me. White Sovereign King said. Recently, I haven't been writing properly. Now that I have a new chapter, I will slow down my writing speed to find the feeling. Star. Chapter 594. Dongbo Shuang wholeheartedly wanted to master the 4th level of the Extreme Annihilation Mysterious Body. However, as he delved deeper into it, he encountered one problem after another. The Substance Deity Heart was fine. With his current realm, it was not difficult for him to grasp this deity heart. However, the 4th level of the Extreme Annihilation Mysterious Body was not just about the Substance Deity Heart, it pursued the pinnacle of substance, and had an extremely high level of control over the laws of substance. Moreover, the most basic form of substance required an inner world. The strength of the inner world would greatly affect the strength of the entire armor. The black armor looked like armor, but it was actually the toughest substance formed by countless worlds. I have to properly study the laws of substance, and improve the profound mysteries of the world. If Dongbo Shuang wanted to improve his control over the laws of substance, he could only experience it time and time again. However, there was another way to improve the profound mysteries of the world, refining the true god weapon, the flying dagger. Xia People's World. Within the Eden Treasure, Crimson Rock Mountain. The white-robed Dongbo Shuang was currently in the courtyard. He sat cross-legged under a large tree. In front of him floated the flying dagger in its sheath. He sent his consciousness into it. This was the internal space of the true god weapon. It was similar to the world core of the Xia People's World. A world of darkness. It seemed real, yet strangely illusory at the same time. Mirage. A mirage that can transform into a real world. Dongbo Shuang thought. My control over the world has already surpassed the normal laws of the heaven and earth. Refining this flying dagger will greatly improve my control over the laws of the world. Mirage. Originally, it was just a part of the world. It was a reflection of the real world. Moreover, the mirage could change according to one's wishes. However, the mirage within this true god weapon contained all the laws of the complete world. The world cracks, the shadow world, the real world, and many others were all contained within. Moreover, it possessed the unique illusory feeling of the mirage. This illusory feeling enveloped the entire world of darkness. This was something that Dongbui Shuang found unimaginable. The world can contain a grain of sand. And a grain of sand can also contain a world. Dongbui Shuang thought to himself, it's said that the temporal island lord specializes in spacetime. My master also specializes in shadows, and he is the most terrifying assassin in the deity world and abyss. Shadow was originally just a grade 2 deity heart, but master has already raised the power of shadow to a level that surpasses the laws of heaven and earth. As Dongbui Shuang had obtained the ultimate arts luminous sun and extreme annihilation mystic body, he was well aware of this as well. Grasping the complete laws of heaven and earth would only allow one to become an ordinary true god. Only by opening up one's own Tao, surpassing the scope of the laws of heaven and earth and standing above the laws of heaven and earth, could one be considered a venerable one. An ordinary stage 4 world deity might not understand the uniqueness of the paragons. Dongbui Shuang only understood a thing or two from the description of the absolute art. I'll just take it one step at a time. I haven't even grasped the complete laws of the heaven and earth yet. I can forget about opening up my own Tao. Dongbui Shuang carefully sensed his surroundings. In the dark illusory world. It seemed real and illusory at the same time. Suddenly, a speck of light flashed from afar and arrived in front of Dongbui Shuang's consciousness, piercing through it. Slaughter. Dongbui Shuang understood. The flying dagger was meant to kill the enemy. Within this flying dagger true god weapon, other than the unique laws of mirage, there was also the extremely terrifying laws of slaughter. The laws of slaughter similarly surpassed the ordinary laws of heaven and earth. It was precisely because of these 2 points that the power of this flying dagger was extremely strong. Naturally, when Dongbui Shuang refined the true god weapon, 99% of his thoughts were on the profound mysteries of the world. Occasionally, to relax, he would ponder over the laws of slaughter contained within that speck of light. Time was merciless. Dongbui Shuang gradually got used to this seemingly eternally long period of time. His thoughts were completely immersed in the countless laws of profound mysteries. Even if he didn't intentionally cultivate, he would constantly grasp the profound mysteries of the heaven and earth by analogy. Dongbui Shuang's mind was also becoming more and more broadened. He felt as though he could control the entire heaven and earth. This wasn't a misconception. It was a real feeling. His grasp of the laws of the heaven and earth was rapidly increasing. With his cultivation speed, it wouldn't be long before he grasped every single strand of the laws of profound mysteries. But grasping all the components of a skyscraper didn't mean that he could construct one. Similarly, grasping all the laws of profound mysteries didn't mean that he could completely grasp the laws of the heaven and earth. This was the heavenly moat that grade 1 true meaning transcendence like Dongbui Shuang had to overcome in order to transcend. Many grade 1 true meaning transcendents could easily cultivate to the stage 4 world deity realm. But they couldn't transcend. Of course, to those stage 4 world deities who had absorbed a large amount of faith energy and were bound by karma, grasping the karma deity heart was a huge problem. Under the restriction of countless karma, grasping the complete laws of the heaven and earth was even harder. I've successfully refined it 80,000 years after becoming a stage 4 world deity. Dongbui Shuang successfully refined the true god weapon, the flying dagger. Refining it was relatively easy. As long as one had some understanding of the internal rules of the true god weapon, they wouldn't need to grasp it completely. As long as they could comprehend a bit of its power, they would be able to use the true god weapon. True god weapon. The white-robed Dongbui Shuang stood amidst the clouds. He then pulled out the flying dagger from the scabbard in his robes. The flying dagger's handle was black, and its blade was suffused with a silvery white luster. It looked like an ordinary flying dagger. It was a true god weapon that contained 2 daos that transcended the laws of the heaven and earth. Show! Dongbui Shuang swung his right hand, causing the flying dagger to disappear. It disappeared. Master, I actually couldn't detect its existence. The weapon spirit, Crimson Rock, immediately transmitted a message. Shwa! Suddenly, a speck of light flickered in the distance. Following that, the speck of light disappeared. Dongbua Shuang lowered his head to look at the scabbard in his robes. The flying dagger had already been sheathed. It can kill enemies stealthily. Right now, my grasp of it is still very shallow. If it were in the hands of its creator, its might would be much greater. Dongbua Shuang now understood why powerful existences desired to obtain a true god weapon. Other than increasing their strength, it was also because they could comprehend the Daos that transcended the laws of the heaven and earth. It was said to open one's own Daos. However, this flying dagger contained two types of Daos. How could those powerful existences who had no idea how to break through not look forward to it? It was normal for Nine Yang Palace Head and the rest to crazily desire it. It was just that the universe had its own formless laws of operation. Monarch Mo Shui didn't care about life and death back then, and took the initiative to go to an extremely dangerous place. Being able to discover a true god weapon first was also normal. Only with his sacrifice did Yu Jingqiu get what she wanted. Dongbua Shuang had also entered the army of destruction with much difficulty before he was able to obtain a true god weapon. Even though he had refined a true god weapon, his grasp of the profound mysteries of the world was still insufficient. He was still in the midst of comprehending the profound mysteries of matter. Until 110,000 years after Dongbua Shuang became a stage 4 world deity. In the Three Chieftains' Sacred Mountains' vast water world, within the Eden. Dongbua Shuang sat cross-legged on the vast grassland. He was attempting to cultivate the extreme annihilation mysterious body once again. Every time he comprehended something, he would attempt to cultivate it. Hong! All of a sudden, a terrifying aura surged out in all directions with Shuang at the center. The surrounding grassland was almost completely destroyed in an instant, and the distant mountains were turned into fine powder. However, this aura was completely isolated by the treasure spirit within a region of 500,000 kilometers. There were no other living beings within this range. It was a forbidden ground, and only Dongbua Shuang was cultivating here. At this moment, Dongbua Shuang's exposed skin, fingers, bones, skin, and even the muscles on his face were trembling faintly. It was as though a new world was being created within his body. There was an endless amount of terrifying energy stored within, and the aura he was emitting was incomparably terrifying. I've succeeded. I've finally succeeded. At this moment, Dongbua Shuang's heart was filled with joy. He had finally succeeded. His body had already started to evolve, starting from the most basic structure. Every single particle within his body was a primal chaos world, and every single primal chaos world was made up of a total of 7 chaotic holes revolving around each other. The terrifying suction force allowed the 7 chaotic holes to maintain a strange balance. The 7 chaotic holes were of varying sizes, and the suction force affected each other, causing the density of the entire chaotic hole world to be extremely high. The degree of stability was also extremely high. Every single particle within Dongbua Shuang's body was already filled with boundless might. Naturally, the hair, muscles, and skin formed by these particles were even more extraordinary. His body started to transform rapidly. At Dongbua Shuang's level, it was no exaggeration to say that he could turn a starry sky into ruins with a flick of his finger. Because he cultivated the extreme annihilation mysterious body, even without armor, his body's defensive strength was already comparable to the 9th level of the time immemorial body. Chapter 595. Because the commander of the Army of Destruction had given him precious materials to cultivate the first 4 levels of the extreme annihilation mysterious body, Dongbua Shuang was able to cultivate it to perfection in one go. Hua Hua Hua, the vast water world was a vast ocean with a depth of over 5,000 kilometers. Xiao! A stream of light soared into the sky, breaking through the surface of the water. His entire body was shrouded in black armor, and his face was covered by a black mask. He was none other than Dongbua Shuang, who had been in seclusion for 260,000 years. Actually, it was very common for cultivators to go into seclusion for 1,000,000 years. It was also common for world deities to sleep for hundreds of millions of years to relieve their mental fatigue. Dongbua Shuang was still very young, so he naturally did not need to sleep for long periods of time. I'm out. Dongbua Shuang swept his gaze across the vast water world. Previously, it was just a piece of gravel, but now, it was a vast ocean. The corrosive power of this water was extremely strong, but his black armor had undergone a qualitative change. Even the surging luminous sun force on the surface of his body was able to isolate this water. Although he did not deliberately cultivate the luminous sun force, after such a long period of seclusion, his cultivation level had greatly increased, reaching the third boundary of the fourth volume. Naturally, the increase in strength was not as obvious as the extreme annihilation mysterious body. Karma sense. Dongbua Shuang carefully sensed. He had not completely grasped the karma deity heart, but he had grasped a large part of it. He could sense many illusory karmic lines connecting him to other life forms. The most obvious one was the karmic connection between himself and his true body. This karmic line was pitch black and seemed to have substance. Enemies could completely attack his true body through karma while killing him. Naturally, his true body was in the material realm and was protected by the laws of the material realm. Even experts at the level of his master and the temporal island lord could at most kill stage 3 world deities in the material realm by borrowing the powerful karma of the oath. Apart from the strongest karma he had with his true body. Next would be his wife Jing Qiu, his son Dongbua Yu, his daughter Dongbua Qingyao, his brother Dongbua Qingshi, and his parents. The karma he had with the blood blade was even lower. There were also 9 abyssal sovereigns in the 3 chieftains' sacred mountain that had karmic ties with him. I didn't expect the 3 chieftains' sacred mountain to have 9 abyssal sovereigns. Dongbua Shuang could easily determine the rough location of the enemy through the karma lines. This way, it would not be easy for the enemy to chase after him. White Sovereign King. Dongbua Shuang repeated in his heart, but a karma line was faintly trembling. That karma line was connected to him, and the other end was just outside the 3 chieftains' sacred mountain. It was still in this layer of the abyss, and it was connected to an existence that emitted a faint stench of blood that made one's heart tremble. White Sovereign King is actually still in this layer of the abyss world. Dongbua Shuang lightly shook his head. This is a little troublesome. Forget about him. Now that I can roughly determine their location through karma, I won't be easily manipulated by them. Dongbua Shuang immediately turned into a stream of light. His speed was much faster than before as he directly flew towards the huge entrance of the vast water world. As for the place where the blood demon scripture was hidden, he naturally knew of it. But now was not the time to take it out. Because White Sovereign King still made Dongbua Shuang feel a huge pressure. He did not have the confidence to survive under White Sovereign King's hands. But he still had to come out of seclusion. His strength had already reached a certain height, and there was a limit to how much he could cultivate. South, after passing through the entrance of the vast water world, he immediately entered the demonic whirlpool. There's no rush to go out. Let's follow my senses and see what exactly is attracting this piece of shard. Dongbua Shuang flipped his right hand, and a dark red sharp shard appeared in his hand. There were simple and unadorned patterns on it, and it was currently trembling slightly as if it was faintly being attracted by an invisible force. After leaving the dark abyss this time, I really don't know how long it will be before I return. Within the 3 chieftains' sacred mountain, everyone is suppressed and can only fly slowly. I'm not in too much danger. Dongbua Shuang thought. And the moment he left, White Sovereign King would most likely be able to instantly travel through worlds and appear in front of him. At that time, he would have to deal with White Sovereign King. Who? Within the demonic whirlpool, following his senses, Dongbua Shuang was also moving forward along the whirlpool. He's out. This was a man clad in dark green armor. He had a single horn on his head, and his eyes were dark yellow in color. This was his human form. He was an extremely famous existence in the entire Dark Abyss, King Patrol Devil. He had lived for an extremely long time, and his strength was even stronger than Monarch Guzong, Nine-Yang Palace Head, and Purple-Gowned Hex Emperor. King Patrol Devil had a calm look in his eyes. The Blood Demon Scripture is one of the 6 great inheritances of Ancestor Devil. It might be the hope for me to open my Tao path. He's out. At another location, a creature similar to an octopus, Emperor Chi Hai, was currently coiled around a huge rock. Its body was huge, and it had a single eye on its head. Its voice was forceful as it muttered to itself, 260,000 years. Adding everything up, it has been more than 300,000 years since he was born. With his talent, he should have become a stage 4 world deity by now. Does he think he can survive just because he has become a stage 4 world deity? As long as I bind him, he's dead for sure. Other than these two, there were 7 others. These two were existences nearing the Paragon realm. Naturally, King Patrol Devil was the most famous, while Emperor Chi Hai was slightly weaker. Outside the 3 chieftains' sacred mountain, above the cloud layer, on a cloud chair and a cloud table, the White Sovereign King was currently drinking wine by himself. He glanced at the 3 chieftains' sacred mountain that was already supporting the sky membrane of this world. This Dongbo Shuang has finally come out. It has only been 260,000 years. What a short time. To him, a single time spent in a daze could last for millions of years. Dongbo Shuang followed the demonic whirlpool and entered a winding passageway. The passageway was long. Dongbo Shuang had always been using karma to sense the location of his enemies. Of the 9 Abyss Sovereigns, Dongbo Shuang did not care about the other 7. The ones he truly paid attention to were King Patrol Devil and Emperor Chi Hai. Why am I getting closer to Emperor Chi Hai? Dongbo Shuang curled his lips. Fortunately, he isn't together with King Patrol Devil. So, flying at high speed, Dongbo Shuang's unfathomably powerful body allowed him to possess absolute speed. Emperor Chi Hai wasn't too proficient in speed, so Dongbo Shuang was still confident in dealing with him. Wang, the crimson sharp shard in his storage treasure was trembling unceasingly, and the trembling was getting more and more intense. Almost there. Dongbo Shuang vaguely understood this point. This winding passageway was very long. Dongbo Shuang transformed into a stream of light and continued advancing. He would often encounter forks in the passageway, and had to rely on the shard to sense the direction to choose his path. Every time he encountered a fork in the passageway would become narrower and narrower. At the start, the passageway was over 100 million kilometers wide, but after Dongbo Shuang had passed through over 100 forks, the passageway was only half a meter in diameter. Dongbo Shuang was forced to shrink his body. At his level, his body could be big or small. Big, his fingers could revolve around a star. Small, even smaller than a speck of dust. We're here. Dongbo Shuang finally stopped. He raised his head and looked ahead. There was a crimson sharp shard stabbed into the wall of the passageway, and it was almost exactly the same as the one he had. The passageway of the 3 chieftains' sacred mountain is indestructible. Even I can't damage it in the slightest. This shard was actually stabbed into it. Dongbo Shuang was inwardly shocked. With a flip of his hand, the crimson sharp shard also appeared in his hand. South, the crimson sharp shard that was stabbed into the stone wall of the passageway immediately flew over. Like a bolt of lightning, it almost instantly fused with the shard in Eastern European Snow Eagle's hand. It was originally a shard, but when the two fused together, it became a complete crimson talisman. Dongbo Shuang sensed it and immediately felt the message transmitted from the talisman. And then, Dongbo Shuang's expression changed slightly. It was out of his expectations, and not quite what he had imagined. Is this a blessing or a curse? Dongbo Shuang mumbled to himself. Then, he turned to look at the direction behind him. Emperor Chi Hai was rapidly approaching. The other 8 abyssal sovereigns were also approaching. However, some of them stopped right next to the demonic vortex. The demonic vortex was rather chaotic. Even when flying, they would pass through space-time. Sometimes, they would accidentally pass through space-time and end up in a dangerous place. Hurry up and leave. If we get surrounded by all of them, we'll be in trouble. Dongbui Shuang transformed into a streak of light and flew in the direction he came from. He didn't dare to continue forward. The passageway was getting narrower and narrower. It might even lead to a dead end. He had to follow the path he came from. Chapter 596. Dongbui Shuang transformed into a stream of light and traveled through the winding passageway at high speed. Following the path he came from, the passageway became wider and wider. "You're not running anymore. Why are you still flying towards me?" Emperor Qi Hai floated in the passageway. His 8 tentacles floated and his single eye stared at the passageway ahead. The mouth on his ugly head carried a strange smile. "Previously, he escaped from me. Does he really think that I can't catch him? Ha, young fellow, you're really too presumptuous." Emperor Qi Hai felt that he had lived for a very long time, and he had explored too many secrets of this vast universe. He even had some understanding of the past cosmos epics like the Lake Heart Island Master and Ancestor Demon. The more he knew, the more respect he felt. To him, Dongbui Shuang was too arrogant. Being a tyrant among Stage 4 world deities and being able to fight against some ordinary powerful existences, it was truly laughable for him to speculate on the strength of existences that were close to the paragon level. One had to know that those who could stand on equal footing with him, Emperor Qi Hai, were all existences like Monarch Guzong and Ninyang Palace Head. They were either the personal disciples of the ruler or powerful true gods with ultimate arts. Otherwise, it would be those with deep foundations, like the Patrol Devil Lord and the purple-gowned Hex Emperor. Swish! As the distance between the two rapidly shortened, Emperor Qi Hai stood guard there and his body became incomparably huge. His 8 tentacles could almost touch the edge of this 10 million miles wide passageway. It wasn't that it couldn't grow bigger, but if it grew any bigger, it would greatly affect its flexibility in battle. "He's here." Emperor Qi Hai responded solemnly. Everything he had experienced over the years had made him understand one thing, and that was that he couldn't let his guard down when facing any opponent. In the vast universe, anything could happen. Only by going all out could accidents be greatly reduced. Emperor Qi Hai. Dongbui Shuang transformed into a stream of light and flew at high speed. His eyes could already penetrate through the influence of spacetime and he could see the enormous Emperor Qi Hai who was guarding in the distance. In the outside world, Dongbui Shuang would be able to see even further without the 3 chieftains' sacred mountains suppression. He's really confident. Dongbui Shuang flew at a high speed, and with a stretch of his right hand, a scarlet-red spear appeared in his hands. It was the Scarlet Cloud Spear. The distance between them was closing. 30 million miles, 20 million miles, 10 million miles, Your Highness Dongbo, this path is blocked. Emperor Qi Hai's powerful voice reverberated throughout the entire passageway. Emperor Qi Hai, the road is very wide. You won't be able to block it. Dongbui Ying's voice reverberated in this space as his speed didn't decrease at all. Emperor Qi Hai's expression became much more solemn. This Dongbui Ying's flying speed is so fast. Looking at his aura, he has indeed become a Stage 4 world deity. His flying speed is more than twice as fast as before. Previously, he was already slightly faster than me. In terms of pure flying speed, I'm inferior to him. However, what I'm good at isn't escaping, but fighting head-on. Emperor Qi Hai looked at Dongbui Shuang who was charging over at high speed and instantly moved. His 8 huge tentacles instantly attacked, immediately causing spacetime to change. Moreover, the 8 tentacles faintly formed a huge spacetime vortex. The spacetime vortex produced a strong gravitational collapse, and when the gravitational collapse occurred, it formed a chaos hole. The 8 tentacles almost covered the entire tunnel. The spacetime vortex revolved and its power spread throughout the entire tunnel. Dongbui Shuang had nowhere to escape to. Dongbui Shuang thrust out the spear in his hand. The spear expanded and a circle of absolute darkness appeared around the spear tip. Outside the darkness was an incomparably dazzling light. The light was so dazzling that it was as though a sun had suddenly appeared in front of him. Back then, when Dongbu Shuang executed his secret skill of destruction, he needed to go through the first 2 spear strikes before he could execute the truly terrifying 3rd spear strike. Now that he had cultivated for over 200,000 years, including the time acceleration, he had actually cultivated for over 10 million years. Putting aside the fact that his comprehension of the laws of heaven and earth had increased greatly, just by refining the true God weapon, flying knife, there were 2 types of daos within the true God weapon. One was the Mirage Dao and the other was the Slaughter Dao. When Dongbu Shuang refined the true God weapon, he had also gained some experience from the Slaughter Dao, allowing his spear techniques to undergo a huge transformation. Now, any random spear strike would have such a powerful destructive power. If he were to really accumulate power for 3 spears, it would be even more impressive. Hong Long Long, the spear turned into a dazzling sun and forcefully pierced into the space-time whirlpool. The surrounding mini black holes started to be destroyed and the gravity started to become chaotic. The space-time whirlpool started to tremble and 8 huge tentacles frenziedly attacked together. Pang! The might of the spear clashed against the 8 tentacles. What? Emperor Qi Hai was shocked. He could feel that Dongbu Shuaying's spear had an extremely powerful penetrative force surging towards him. The power was so strong that he was actually unable to suppress it. Emperor Qi Hai's head and body immediately dodged to the side. Hua! The spear forcefully passed through the obstruction of the 8 tentacles and pierced through the side of Emperor Qi Hai's head and body. Following which, Dongbu Shuang immediately slammed his spear to the side at lightning speed. One of Emperor Qi Hai's tentacles moved agilely. Space-time changed and the tentacles strangely blocked in front of the spear. Pang! The spear slammed against the tentacle before slamming against Emperor Qi Hai's head. Emperor Qi Hai's huge body was sent flying to the side and heavily smashed against the stone wall of the passageway. His strength is actually so strong, even stronger than mine. I'm afraid that among the almighty existences, only Patrol Devil King and a few other existences that specialize in strength can suppress him. Emperor Qi Hai was shocked. Dongbu Shuang had 2 absolute arts. Luminous Sun, Extreme Yang, Unyielding, Unparalleled Ferocity, specialize in strength and speed. Now, it had reached the 4th volume's 3rd rank. Extreme Annihilation Mysterious Body, a technique created by the strongest existence in the multiverse epics, Lakeheart Island Master. Similarly, it specializes in strength and speed. Invincible Defense. Now that he had mastered the 4th level, his strength and speed were comparable to the 4th volume's Luminous Sunday. The combination of 2 great techniques. One was the energy within the body, the other was the power of the fleshly body. Luminous Sun Force could also display a greater advantage within the body. With the combination of the 2, Dongbu Shuaying's strength and speed became even more ferocious. In order to win him in strength, one had to be an almighty existence that also specialized in strength absolute arts. Emperor Qi Hai was clearly not such an existence. Although he had countless adventures, he had only obtained the cultivation contents of one absolute art before becoming a true god, as well as the remnant chapters of some ancient techniques. Ultimately, he created a slightly more evil and unique technique, allowing him, Emperor Qi Hai, to be able to stand side by side with existences like Nine Yang Palace Head. But at the very least, in terms of strength, he didn't have the slightest advantage. You won't be able to escape. Emperor Qi Hai was slapped against the stone walls of the passageway. Although he was shocked, he didn't hesitate to execute his self-created absolute arts killing move. Wang, 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 wang. His 8 tentacles broke at the same time. Tentacles immediately grew out of his real body, and the 8 tentacles immediately turned into dark red demons. Each of them had a pair of curved horns, and their knees were reverse joints. Their bodies were strong, and each of these 8 demons had a tentacle tail. Scram! When Dongbu Shuang slapped Emperor Qi Hai away, he was already flying at high speed. After the 8 tentacles turned into 8 demons, Dongbo Shuang had already killed his way to the 8 demons. The 2 demons closest to him roared as they tried to obstruct him. Peng peng peng, Dongbo Shuang didn't even stop and continued to wave his spear. Peng peng. The spear was incomparably nimble and its strength and speed were extremely strong. It directly forced the 2 demons to retreat. Swish. Dongbo Shuang's true body flashed past. Dongbo Shuang, don't run. Emperor Qi Hai roared in anger. His 8 demon clones also roared in anger at the same time. Emperor Qi Hai, I won't play with you anymore. I will make a move first. Dongbo Shuang naturally knew the ultimate move that Emperor Qi Hai was most proficient in. The 8 clones that he could create during battle was his most famous move. Each clone was very close to his true body. If it was in the outside world, he could use world clones. Each demon clone could use it. His true body and the 8 demon clones, just the world clones alone could become a total of 81. Hence, Emperor Qi Hai was most proficient in group fights. He actually... Looking at Dongbo Shuang rapidly flying away with a speed that was more than double of his, Emperor Qi Hai was filled with grief and indignation. He was very clear that Dongbo Shuang's speed was very fast. Hence, he executed another domain-type ultimate move, Space-Time World, wanting to trap Dongbo Shuang. But it was a pity that Dongbo Shuang's strength far surpassed his imagination. A single spear forcefully destroyed his space-time world. As for group fights, Emperor Qi Hai was also clear that even if he joined hands with the 8 slightly weaker demon clones, with Dongbo Shuang's speed which was more than double of his, as long as he found a slight gap, he would be able to easily shake them off. Chase! I'm not the only one in the 3 chieftains' sacred mountain. The 8 demon clones by the side instantly turned into streams of light and fused into Emperor Qi Hai's body. Emperor Qi Hai immediately turned into a stream of light and chased after them. However, his speed was clearly much slower. Chapter 597. After shaking off Emperor Qi Hai, Dongbo Shuang traveled at his fastest speed through the winding tunnel. As expected of Emperor Qi Hai. That space-time world is indeed mysterious. As Dongbo Shuang flew, he reflected on the short exchange earlier. After being in seclusion for so many years, he had mainly cultivated the world deity heart. After refining the true god weapon flying knife, his understanding of the profound mysteries of the world had greatly increased. Therefore, he could see how extraordinary that space-time world was. Not only that, the 3 special weapons left behind by the mysterious frozen corpse of the mysterious paragon that Dongbo Shuang obtained all contained that space-time Tao. Among them, there was one that could trap the enemy. Comparing the 2, he could see the uniqueness of Emperor Qi Hai's move. The crimson-red bracelet has even more impressive control over space-time. It has already surpassed the laws of the world and is a Tao that opened up space-time. Dongbo Shuang thought, although Emperor Qi Hai is strong, he has yet to open up his own Tao. But he combined space-time with the world to form a sealed world. If I was slightly weaker, I wouldn't be able to destroy that terrifying whirlpool and would be sucked into the space-time world to be suppressed and trapped. Dongbo Shuang praised in his heart. He was very confident in the aspect of the world, but compared to Emperor Qi Hai, he was still inferior. But at least the current him could see through many things. Clearly, the gap between them was no longer as exaggerated as when they were stage 3 world deities. His self-created fission doppelganger technique is also impressive. Dongbo Shuang recalled the demon doppelganger that was formed after the 8 tentacles broke off. Just like his own world doppelganger, it was formed by borrowing the uniqueness of the world energy. What was the world energy? This was the fundamental power of a world and it could transform into anything. Therefore, borrowing the power of the world, it could transform endlessly. Transforming into a doppelganger, transforming into a weapon, everything was possible. Of course, the prerequisite was that he had already understood it from the core. Like luminous sun force, extreme annihilation, mysterious body, when he fully understood them, he would be able to transform them. Like gold, silver, rocks and other simple materials, he could see through the most basic structure and transform them out. But for a blood-refined deity weapon like the Scarlet Cloud Spear, he was unable to see through the structure of many materials. Therefore, he could not transform it out and could only transform some ordinary weapons. However, World Force had a huge flaw. Once the enemy's control over the power of the world became stronger, they would be able to seize control of the power of the world. There was nothing he could do. Another example would be the Three Chieftains' Sacred Mountain, Lake Heart Island, and other ancient lands that suppressed certain laws. Even Dongbui Shuaying and the others were unable to use even the slightest bit of world energy. He could not even travel through spacetime or display his world deity domain. Even external forces could not be used. He could only rely on himself. His fission doppelganger is his own technique. There's no need for external help. Dongbui Shuaying thought to himself. The tentacle body can transform into a doppelganger, and at the same time, it can still maintain its strength. This is a unique body modification technique. For instance, the 3rd, 2nd, and 1st class legions of the Bloodshed God Palace would have their soldiers undergo a body transformation. Emperor Qi Hai had clearly created some kind of special body transformation method. Although the 8 demon clones were slightly weaker than the true body, it was still able to increase his strength by several times. This was a very powerful method. If we were to fight in close combat, his utilization of the realm is ultimately above mine. I'm afraid it'll be hard for me to win. Dongbui Shuaying thought. He was not discouraged because every expert had their own specialties. He too had his own specialties. At this moment, he was only about 100 million kilometers away from the demonic maelstrom. Dongbui Shuaying's expression changed. What a coincidence. He could clearly sense it. There were 2 abyss sovereigns traveling through the demonic maelstrom, traveling through spacetime again and again. One of them had actually traveled to the end of the path ahead of him. They had already entered a winding passage. The demonic maelstrom. Flying within it will cause one to travel through spacetime again and again. There is no pattern to traveling through spacetime, so it's actually a coincidence for them to reach where I am. Dongbui Shuaying was speechless. Fortunately, they are just 2 ordinary abyss sovereigns. Of all the abyss sovereigns within the 3 chieftains' sacred mountain, only King Patrol Devil and Emperor Qi Hai could be considered on the same level as him. King Patrol Devil was the one that Dongbui Shuaying did not wish to meet. I actually made it. The 2 abyss sovereigns arrived at the entrance of the winding passage from the demonic maelstrom. Their faces were filled with joy. Previously, with the help of karma, I felt that His Highness Dongbui would enter the demonic maelstrom very soon. I'm afraid that he would escape to an even further place. I thought that we wouldn't be able to catch up. Who would have thought that we would arrive here just by traveling through spacetime in the demonic maelstrom? One of the abyss sovereigns, whose entire body was translucent and had dozens of soft feelers, said. Our luck isn't bad. The other grey-robed abyss sovereign nodded. Sovereign Du Luo, do you really have the confidence to restrain His Highness Dongbui? I'm afraid that he has already become a stage 4 world deity, and his strength has increased greatly. Furthermore, according to my karma, even Emperor Qi Hai wasn't able to obstruct him previously. The translucent and plump abyss sovereign said. Don't worry. As long as you can guarantee my safety, I'll definitely be able to restrain him. The grey-robed abyss sovereign said confidently, I've cultivated for 50 billion years just to find an opportunity. This is a good opportunity. As long as I succeed, with White Sovereign's temperament, he'll definitely bestow us the first half of the Blood Demon scripture. Who knows, we might even be able to obtain the complete inheritance. And then, the plump abyss sovereign nodded. The grey-robed abyss sovereign glanced at his comrade, Sovereign Chu Fu. This was the comrade he had chosen because he knew that His Highness Dongbui was already comparable to ordinary powerful existences when he was a stage 3 world deity. His strength was even more formidable when he became a stage 4 world deity. According to the records of some peerless world deities in history, there were some stage 4 world deities who possessed a combat strength close to that of a paragon. Hence, He pulled along this comrade who was famous for his defense. This is my best chance. As long as I succeed, I'll have contributed the most, and my chances of obtaining the complete blood demon scripture will be very high. Even if it's just the first half, once I successfully cultivate it, my strength will increase greatly. The eyes of the grey-robed Abyss Sovereign were filled with desire. Even if it was a stage 4 world deity level absolute art, if it was cultivated to large success, it would have a combat strength close to that of a paragon. Hoo-hoo! The two of them turned into streams of light and rapidly moved forward to obstruct him. The deep and winding passage only had one path. Facing two ordinary Abyss Sovereigns, it was impossible for Dongbui Shuang to retreat. Even when facing Emperor Qi Hai, he would still be afraid of two ordinary Abyss Sovereigns. One is Sovereign Du Luo, and the other is Sovereign Chu Fu. Sovereign Chu Fu has cultivated his defense to an extremely high realm, and is comparable to the 9th level of the time immemorial body. Dongbui Shuang thought. The time immemorial body was most proficient in life preservation, and it was cultivated to the grand circle. He would definitely not be able to kill them. If I can't kill them, I'll just ignore them. Sovereign Du Luo? I've never heard of them being powerful. These thoughts flashed past Dongbui Shuang's mind. The distance between the two was shrinking. 100 million kilometers, 90 million kilometers, 80 million kilometers, Dongbui Shuang's flying speed was more than twice as fast as the other party. He rapidly closed in. He held onto the scarlet cloud spear with a single hand, and his might was ferocious and violent. He did not treat these two powerful existences of the dark abyss as his opponents. He's here. Sovereign Chu Fu and Sovereign Du Luo both stopped, and looked far into the deep and winding passage. Both of them were powerful existences, and their eyes could see through the influence of space, and they could see a violent figure millions of kilometers away. That figure was clad in black armor, and he held onto a scarlet spear with a single hand. His flying speed had risen to close to 2 million kilometers per second, and this was a speed that made them speechless. The terrifying aura emitted from his body, and even from afar, it caused their hearts to tremble. After cultivating the 4th level of the Extreme Annihilation mysterious body, Dongbui Shuang was already considered a qualified soldier of the Army of Destruction. Even if he was an ordinary member, it was enough to make ordinary true gods feel fear. His aura was violent and overbearing. Before exchanging blows, they could already feel the formless pressure. Sovereign Chu Fu, you will definitely be able to block him, right? Sovereign Du Luo asked. Don't worry. Sovereign Chu Fu gritted his teeth. You should know that Patrol Devil King also took 15 minutes to destroy one of my avatars. I will definitely be able to block this, His Highness Dongbui. At this moment, the black-armored figure wielding a scarlet spear was already closing in at high speed. At the same time, a voice came from afar, "Two Abyss Sovereigns, please make way." Chapter 598. Give way. The grey-robed Sovereign Du Luo stood in mid-air. The strands of void power in his body transformed from the true god power had long since spread out, enveloping the passageway that had a diameter of over 100 million kilometers, forming a unique formation. Countless divine runes circulated on the formation, glowing with golden light. The massive spirit array completely blocked the entire tunnel, not leaving any flaws. Your Highness Dongbui. The grey-robed Sovereign Du Luo said in a clear voice, please stop. You won't be able to escape. At the side, the chubby and translucent Sovereign Chu Fu had also instantly transformed into a translucent sphere, enveloping Sovereign Du Luo. This translucent sphere was close to 1,000 meters in size. Countless light rays flowed on it, and on the translucent sphere, one could faintly see Sovereign Chu Fu's face. Xiao! Dongbui Shuang, who was flying over at high speed, saw this scene from afar and frowned. This spirit array seems to contain many spatial profundities. Break for me. Dongbui Shuang couldn't be bothered to waste any more thoughts as he stabbed out with the scarlet cloud spear in his hands. The scarlet cloud spear suddenly expanded, sweeping across the heaven and earth. With an unparalleled might, it forcefully swept across. Before he went into seclusion, he already had a huge advantage in terms of strength. Now that he was in seclusion, his advantage in terms of strength had already reached an inconceivable level. Even Emperor Qi Hai was forcefully smashed away by Dongbu Shuang, and his time and space world was directly destroyed by a single spear strike. Absolute strength coupled with a high cultivation realm was enough to make him invincible. Rumble, the spear pierced into the massive spirit array. The spirit array seemed to be void. The spear didn't receive any obstruction as it swept through the spirit array. And then, Dongbu Shuiying's expression changed slightly. There's no obstruction. Boom! 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 The scarlet cloud spear, which had already become tens of millions of miles, swept across the void, destroying wantonly. Under Dongbu Shuiying's terrifying strength, he executed his spear art of destruction and stabbed out 3 times. The first spear turned into a dazzling sun, the second spear was even more ferocious, and the third spear caused Sovereign Du Luo and Sovereign Chu Fu to turn pale with fright. Too strong. Sovereign Chu Fu was extremely nervous as he transmitted a message. Du Luo, can you really restrain Dongbu Shuiying? As long as you can defend against it, I'll be able to restrain it. The grey-robed Sovereign Du Luo's heart tightened. The might of this spear art was too terrifying. An incomparably dazzling sun came crashing down, crushing the entire formation. The formation was still empty. There was no resistance. Dongbu Shuiying furrowed his brows. He was a bold man with great skills. Without slowing down, he turned into a beam of light and flew into the void formation. The moment he rushed in, the scene changed. The void array turned into a boundless space. Dongbu Shuiying flew into this space. A formation that controls space? Dongbu Shuiying's lips curled up. Bigger, bigger, bigger. Dongbu Shuiying's body rapidly enlarged. Instantly, his body expanded to a height of 50 million kilometers. For a body as strong as Dongbu Shuiying's, he could intentionally enlarge his body to a size of 1 trillion kilometers. However, the diameter of the passageway was only 50 million kilometers. If he enlarged any further, it would affect his movements in battle. The enormous Dongbu Shuiying's body emitted a majestic aura. The spear in his hand slashed towards the void in front of him furiously. You can't escape. Under the control of the grey-robed Sovereign Du Luo, the void formation also enlarged. It was still as empty as before. Interesting. You want to play with domains with me? Dongbu Shuiying shook his head. Following which, the towering Dongbu Shuiying's body emitted countless dazzling white lights. Every ray of white light was incomparably sharp. It was the luminous sun force. The luminous sun force was pervasive. It rapidly expanded in all directions. The speed of its expansion was too fast. Moreover, it was like a domain as it expanded in all directions. Very quickly, the countless white lights had already permeated through half the void formation. It even enveloped Sovereign Chu Fu and Sovereign Du Luo, who were in the center of the formation. Very quickly, the luminous sun force had covered the entire void formation. Although the luminous sun force was ferocious, it was still unable to destroy the strange void energy. Because the void energy didn't seem to exist. Your Highness Dongbu. Sovereign Du Luo's voice reverberated throughout every corner of the formation. It's useless. Even if you expand your energy, you still won't be able to escape. Is that so? After Dongbu Shuiying ascertained the entire void formation, he disregarded the illusion in front of him and immediately flew in a direction at high speed. Xiao! He flew as fast as lightning. However, as he flew, the entire void formation was constantly revolving, causing the space around him to constantly shift. After flying for a breath's time, he was still shifted to his original position. It's like a circle. I flew here and there, and under the layers of void shifting, I actually flew back to my original position. Dongbu Shuiying frowned. Through the luminous sun force, he was very clear of all this. However, he was passive. This was because the void formation was being controlled by that sovereign Du Luo. I didn't expect this sovereign Du Luo to have such attainments in the field of formations. His flying speed was slower than the attacking speed of his weapons and the luminous sun force. Sovereign Du Luo was completely able to make the void formation change along with him. For example, the speed of his weapons and the luminous sun force were too fast. In fact, in order not to affect or restrict Dongbui Shui Ying's body, Sovereign Du Luo didn't even dare to divert his attention to affect Dongbui Shui Ying's weapons. Since I can't fly out, then I can only deal with the controller of the formation. Dongbui Shui Ying stood in midair. The spear in his hand suddenly waved. He had boundless strength. Under the wave of the Scarlet Cloud spear that was close to 50 million kilometers long, just a slight sweep was enough to cover a distance of tens of millions of kilometers in the blink of an eye. It was much faster than just flying. The spear swept downwards, furiously smashing onto the translucent sphere. Pang! The sphere caved in slightly, but Sovereign Du Luo, who was within the translucent sphere, was still smiling. Break for me. Dongbui Shui Ying executed his spear arts once again. The spear was ferocious as it hacked down furiously once again. But the sphere still only caved in from the impact and withstood this attack. Your Highness Dongbui, you ultimately won't be able to escape. Emperor Qi Hai, who had been chasing from behind, finally caught up. At this moment, Dongbui Shui Ying didn't bother about him anymore. He knew that if he wanted to leave, he had to deal with Sovereign Du Luo, who was controlling the void formation. He didn't expect that the unknown Sovereign Du Luo would actually be so powerful in controlling the void formation. Previously, the information he had obtained didn't mention this point at all. Destroy. Dongbui Shui Ying executed his spear art, destroy. Boom boom boom. Every single time, the spear stabbed furiously onto the translucent sphere. When it stabbed furiously for the first time, more than half of the translucent sphere that Sovereign Chu Fu had turned into was pierced through. Following which, it was pierced for the second time. After absorbing part of the profound mysteries of the Tao of Slaughter from the true God weapon flying knife, the profound mysteries of Shui Ying's destruction spear technique were indeed terrifying. It was hard for Sovereign Chu Fu to dissipate the force. He could only rely on his unique body to resist against it. Sovereign Du Luo, this Dongbui Shui Ying spear art is too powerful. He might not be able to kill me, but he might be able to pierce through my body and kill you. Sovereign Chu Fu immediately transmitted a message. What? You can't protect me? The gray-robed Sovereign Du Luo was anxious. He was also cursing this Sovereign Chu Fu for being unreliable. Emperor Qi Hai, please join hands with me to restrain Dongbui Shui Ying. Sovereign Du Luo transmitted. All right. Emperor Qi Hai didn't hesitate. He also charged into the void formation. Within the void formation, he wasn't affected by any obstructions as he headed straight for Dongbui Shui Ying. Break, break, break for me. When Dongbui Shui Ying saw Emperor Qi Hai charging over, he attacked even more ferociously. Your Highness Dongbui. In the end, you still landed in my hands after escaping. Emperor Qi Hai's 8 tentacles were severed. The 8 tentacles turned into 8 demon clones. In an instant, Emperor Qi Hai's true body and the 8 demon clones seemed to have pounced onto Dongbui Shui Ying's side. Pang! One of the demon clones took out a huge axe and hacked towards Dongbui Shui Ying furiously. Another demon clone took out a curved blade and slashed towards Dongbui Shui Ying's head. The 8 demon clones attacked at almost the same time. Dongbui Shui Ying's spear arts didn't stop. He didn't care about the attacks of these demon clones. When the huge axe hacked onto his body, the black armor on the surface of his body didn't even leave a single mark. After the black armor weakened the remaining power, Dongbui Shui Ying's body easily withstood it. His body didn't move at all. The attacks of the 8 demon clones were violent and ferocious. Every single one of them was only slightly weaker than Emperor Qi Hai. They all had combat strength close to the Paragon level. But with attacks coming from all directions, Dongbu Shuang merely shook his muscles to dissipate the power. He didn't even move his feet, much less get injured. What? Emperor Qi Hai, who was accumulating power at the back, turned pale with fright. How is this possible? The attacks of 8 close to the paragon level. This was his, Emperor Qi Hai's ultimate move. It was what he relied on to move unhindered in the God world and abyss. There weren't many powerful existences who dared to clash head-on with him. But Dongbu Shuang didn't even execute any spear arts to block. He completely relied on his body to take it. He didn't even move his feet. What a joke. Dongbu Shuang looked at him coldly, treating Emperor Qi Hai as a fool. This ultimate move was powerful, but he, Dongbu Shuang, didn't know how to use it. Even if he fought head-on, it would be hard for him to win. But he had his own strong points too. Other than having boundless strength and extremely fast speed, he also had an invincible defense. Defense was Dongbu Ying's greatest advantage. Back then, when the army of destruction of Lake Heart Island made a move, they would usually deal with paragons. Even for paragons, it would be hard for them to break through my black armor. Not to mention that these 8 demon clones are only at the pinnacle of powerful existences. Dongbu Shuang didn't even care. This was still far from the limits of what his black armor could withstand. If the regular soldiers of the army of destruction weren't even paragons and they could destroy their armored bodies, then that would be a joke. Boom boom boom. Dongbu Shuang didn't care about Emperor Qi Hai and allowed Emperor Qi Hai to deal with him. Meanwhile, he was attacking the grey-robed sovereign Du Luo with all his might. His Scarlet Cloud Spear executed his spear arts of destruction. Every 3 spear strikes, the last spear would erupt with terrifying might, which was able to pierce through the entire sphere. This allowed Sovereign Chu Fu to wrap around Sovereign Du Luo and escape with difficulty. Emperor Qi Hai, hurry up and stop Dongbu Shuang. Sovereign Du Luo transmitted. Under Emperor Qi Hai's roar, his 8 enormous tentacles expanded and wrapped towards Dongbu Shuang, wrapping around him crazily. The binding force of the tentacles was extremely strong, and it indeed affected Dongbu Shuang's execution of spear arts. Open. Dongbu Shuang's arms suddenly exerted strength. Bang bang bang, the tentacles were actually completely broken by Dongbu Shuang's arms. Of course, the broken tentacles rapidly flew back and Emperor Qi Hai's injuries were also instantly healed. However, he indeed felt immense pressure. This Dongbu Shuang's strength is indeed comparable to mine. However, his strength is ridiculously strong and his defense is so strong that he can allow me to attack him. Emperor Qi Hai. Sovereign Du Luo was extremely anxious. I can't hold on any longer. Sovereign Chu Fu was also about to go crazy. The translucent sphere that Sovereign Chu Fu had turned into had already been pierced through multiple times, and Sovereign Du Luo, who was inside, was also barely dodging. And this time, Dongbu Shuang's spear once again tore apart Sovereign Chu Fu's body, causing his translucent body to split into 2. One half of it wrapped around Sovereign Du Luo and was escaping. Boom! Dongbu Shuang's spear was too fast. The surging spear was unending and Sovereign Du Luo had to dodge time and time again. Facing such a fast spear art, he would eventually miss and not be able to dodge. Pooh! The spear once again pierced through the translucent body, and at the same time, it pierced into the body of the grey-robed Sovereign Du Luo. The destructive intent contained within the spear almost instantly destroyed Sovereign Du Luo's body, turning it into dust. Clearly, in terms of survival, he was far inferior to Sovereign Chu Fu. Sovereign Chu Fu's Dongbu Shuang could only tear apart his body and wasn't able to truly destroy him. No! Sovereign Du Luo's consciousness instantly sank into darkness and his body was destroyed. The void array also directly dissipated. The scene in front of Dongbu Shuang's eyes became clear once again. The winding and serene passageway appeared once again. I'm not going to play with you guys anymore. Dongbu Shuang wielded the spear and flew at high speed. That devil clone which still wanted to obstruct him was smashed to the side by Dongbu Shuiying's spear. Under his high speed, he flew far away rapidly. Emperor Qi Hai floated in mid-air and watched from afar. He didn't continue to chase. Although this Dongbu Shuiying's strength is comparable to mine, his defense is too exaggerated. Fighting 1 against 3 and he still killed Du Luo. That translucent ball had also turned into the chubby Sovereign Chu Fu. Sovereign Chu Fu was also looking at Dongbu Shuiying's figure in astonishment. When the news of this battle spreads out, this Dongbu Shuiying will definitely shock the entire Dark Abyss and Divine World. Below the Paragon Realm, another incredible existence has appeared. Asterisk 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 asterisk. Chapter 599. The news couldn't be hidden. The other Abyss sovereigns could sense through karma and discover that Emperor Qi Hai and the other 2 sovereigns were surrounding Dongbu Shuiying. But very quickly, Sovereign Du Luo's avatar disappeared. Dongbu Shuiying had actually escaped again. Emperor Qi Hai and the other 2 didn't chase after him. Emperor Qi Hai, what happened? The 3 of you were dealing with His Highness Dongbo, yet he still managed to escape. Sovereign Chu Fu, the 3 of you fought against 1 and 1 was still killed by Dongbu Shuiying? They asked one by one. Right. Sovereign Chu Fu replied in a polite tone, His Highness Dongbu's strength isn't inferior to Emperor Qi Hai. In close combat, he has a greater advantage. If you meet His Highness Dongbu in the future, it's best if you avoid him as soon as possible. Don't send yourselves to death. Humph. Right, the 3 of us fought against 1 and he killed 1. Emperor Qi Hai's temper wasn't good as he transmitted coldly, if you have the capabilities, try it. Fighting 1 against 3. One must know that any powerful existence couldn't be underestimated. Because after transcending, powerful existences had limitless lifespans. They would spend time and effort to research in one aspect and would have their own special methods. Some were good at arrays, some were good at hexing poison, some were good at illusions. Anyway, they all had their own specialties. When 3 powerful existences worked together and coordinated well, their strength could undergo a qualitative change. Just like Sovereign Chu Fu and Sovereign Du Luo who worked together to restrain Dongbu Shuiying, it was because Dongbu Shuiying's attacks were too ferocious that he finally killed Du Luo and broke the array. If he hadn't researched the slaughter Dao of the true god weapon flying knife, causing the power of his spear art's secret skill destruction to increase greatly, he probably wouldn't have been able to break Sovereign Chu Fu's body. If that was the case, he might really be trapped forever. As for Emperor Qi Hai and Dongbu Shuiying, they were relying on their terrifying defense to hold on. So, to be able to fight 1 against 3, especially with Emperor Qi Hai among them, this was extremely difficult. Any powerful existence understood that to kill Sovereign Du Luo while fighting 1 against 3, there was definitely no luck involved. So powerful? Aren't we sending ourselves to death? Forget it. The other abyssal sovereigns in the 3 chieftains' sacred mountain gave up one by one. They had no confidence at all. Only Lord Patrol Devil was still chasing after Dongbu Shuiying. It was extremely rare for powerful existences to be able to kill one of them in a one-on-many battle. Every time this happened, the news would spread throughout the God Realm and the Dark Abyss. It was the same this time. The news quickly spread among the powerful existences, and everyone was speechless. His Highness Dongbo has become a universe god of the 4th heaven, and he's so powerful. Even some of the heaven-defying stage 4 world deities in history weren't this exaggerated, right? 1 against 3. Emperor Qi Hai is also among them. Amazing. Their hearts trembled. After all, Dongbu Shuiying was one of the 2 members of the Army of Destruction in this universe era, the other being Pang Yi. Within the Bloodshed God Palace's Crimson Stone Courtyard, within Dongbu Shuiying's cavern dwelling, Jing Qiu was currently discussing the Tao of cultivation with her daughter Dongbu and Qing Yao. As for her son Dongbuyu, he had been stuck at a bottleneck and could not break through, so he had long left to roam the world. Daughter, daughter. Monarch Imo Shui hurried over, his face filled with joy. Father, what's the matter? Jing Qiu was slightly startled. This son-in-law of mine is amazing, truly amazing. Monarch Imo Shui praised. Oh? Jing Qiu, Dongbua, and Qing Yao were all puzzled. Let me explain it to you in detail. Monarch Imo Shui was incomparably excited. He had never been so glorious in his life, yet this son-in-law of his had reached such a stage. Who? Dongbua Shuang traveled within the demonic maelstrom. As the maelstrom engulfed him, he traveled through time-space again and again. Traveling through time-space was irregular, but he was still able to sense the position of Lord Patrol Devil. Even though he had just experienced a battle, Dongbua Shuang still had self-awareness. Me and Emperor Qi Hai, he can't do anything to me, and I can't do anything to him either. Dongbua Shuang understood this point. Lord Patrol Devil is different. Lord Patrol Devil is reckoned to be the most powerful person below the Paragon level in the entire deity world and abyss. He had once fought head-on with Paragons. He is most proficient in strength, and I reckon that his strength is above mine. I am also unable to break his killing move. Lord Patrol Devil was most famous for his strength. A very very long time ago, he had once fought one against 8 on the Moon Star. His terrifying strength swept through 8 powerful existences who had joined hands. 2 of them died, and 6 of them fled. He had fought head-on with Paragons on more than one occasion, and then fled. The others don't seem to dare to chase after me. The corner of Dongbua Shuiying's mouth slightly rose. That's good too. Just avoiding one Lord Patrol Devil was much easier. Who would have thought that in the blink of an eye, I would become like those legendary existences, able to fight one against many and even kill a powerful existence? Dongbua Shuiying sighed. Unknowingly, I have reached this stage. However, it will be difficult for me to advance any further. In the future, the increase in his strength would be very slow. After all, as a grade 1 true meaning transcendent, cultivating to the stage 4 world deity realm in one go was the fastest way to increase his strength. Almost all the grade 1 true meaning transcendents in history were like this. Naturally, Dongbua Shuiying could be considered a well-known figure amongst them. After all, he was the one who broke the record for becoming the fastest stage 3 world deity. There's no other path. I have to accumulate enough strength. Dongbua Shuiying understood this point very well. As long as he steadily cultivated and accumulated enough strength, he would naturally break through and grasp the complete laws of the world. Transcending the river of time, he would truly be eternal. The current him might be a powerful life form in the river of time, but he was still unable to break free from its restrictions. Xiao. Within the 3 chieftains' sacred mountain, only Lord Patrol Devil was chasing after him. Dongbua Shuiying very easily returned to the vast water world. Within the vast water world, it was still a vast expanse of water. Dongbua Shuiying flew at high speed and directly plunged into the water. Passing through the gravel land, he soon reached the bottom of the gravel land and stood on top of the thick crimson membrane. His luminous sun force flew out from his body. The surging luminous sun force tore apart the crimson membrane and tunneled deep into it, retrieving the storage treasure which he had hidden earlier. He then took out the original copy of the first half of the Blood Demon scripture. Absolute Art First Half. Dongbua Shuiying looked at the book in his hand. The book was like a sea of blood invading Dongbua Shuiying's true deity heart. An evil and bloody aura pervaded the air. I wonder who created this absolute art. It seems to be extremely evil. Dongbua Shuiying flipped his hand and kept it. I didn't intend to bring this original copy out. Dongbua Shuiying smiled. I just didn't expect that the talisman formed from the 2 fragments would have such an effect. Even with his current strength, Dongbua Shuiying did not have the confidence to preserve his life in front of White Sovereign King. He did not intend to bring this treasure out. The moment he was killed, wouldn't this Blood Demon scripture belong to White Sovereign King? But, that talisman had an extremely unique aspect. Although it made Dongbua Shuiying very fearful, at least he had the confidence to leave the dark abyss. I hope I won't have to use it. Dongbui Shuang thought. Go. Show. After keeping the blood demon scripture, Dongbui Shuang immediately tore through the sky. After leaving the vast water world, he continued advancing. He had already obtained some basic information about the three chieftains' sacred mountain from Paragon Huacheng. Therefore, he intentionally maintained a distance from Lord Patrol Devil. After taking a huge detour, he finally arrived at one of the gigantic demon head exits of the three chieftains' sacred mountain. I'm finally coming out. The one outside should be White Sovereign King, right? Dongbui Shuang looked ahead. Ahead of him was the bloody mouth of the demon head. Through the huge exit, he could see the white clouds in the sky outside. Chapter 600. Dongbui Shuang turned into a stream of light and flew out of the demon's mouth. I'm out. After flying out of the three chieftains' sacred mountain, Dongbui Shuang immediately felt his body lighten. He could now control the surrounding world energy and travel through spacetime. He was completely suppressed within the three chieftains' sacred mountain, and he could only fly slowly while traveling. Humph! A cold snort was suddenly heard. Dongbui Shuang turned his head and saw a silver-white armored handsome man floating in midair. This handsome young man had a cold expression, and his eyes were filled with cold intent. It was as though he was looking at an ant. White Sovereign King was famous for his bloodlust in the entire dark abyss. His bloodlust could cause even demons who grew up in slaughter to feel fear. One could only imagine how ruthless and insane he was. Demons were said to be terrifying. White Sovereign King was a demon among demons. White Sovereign. Dongbui Shuang had just opened his mouth. Hua! White Sovereign King had a sword by his waist. He instantly unsheathed it. Without saying a word, he directly slashed out. The surrounding world was completely frozen, and Dongbui Shuang could not dodge in time. The sword light was magnificent and magnificent. It streaked across the sky like a rainbow. So beautiful. Following that, the sword light had already landed on Dongbui Shuang's body. He did not even have time to defend himself. The sword by White Sovereign King's waist was a true god weapon. The sword technique he displayed had also surpassed that of an ordinary true god. This sword was completely above the laws of the heaven and earth. At the instant the sword light landed on his body, Dongbui Shuang finally understood the huge gap between him and his opponent. Hong! Dongbui Shuang was directly sent flying, crashing into the face of the enormous demon head of the three chieftains' sacred mountain. He even tumbled twice before Dongbui Shuang managed to grab onto the rocks of the three chieftains' sacred mountain to stabilize himself. The blood in his body was boiling, and there was a sweet taste in his throat. Dongbui Shuang looked at the place where the sword had landed on his chest. There was already a slash mark on it. One sword strike can damage the armor. According to the description in the Extreme Annihilation mysterious body, it would be very difficult for even a venerable to kill me. Only the best of the best would be able to do it. The White Sovereign King was able to injure me with a casual sword. It seems like, with the classification of the Lake Heart Island era, he can be considered a peak existence amongst the paragons. Dongbui Shuang made his judgment. He raised his head and looked at the handsome silver-armored man in the distance. I didn't think that he would attack without saying anything. This is going to be troublesome. Do I really have to use that talisman? The talisman was unique. White Sovereign King lightly drank a cup of wine and said, I won't ask for the original copy of the first half of the Blood Demon scripture. As long as you let me and Great Destruction receive the inheritance, it will be enough. As a reward, Great Destruction will also let you receive the second half of the Blood Demon scripture. Furthermore, I will send you safely out of the dark abyss. All right. Dongbui Shuang did not hesitate. Then I'll let Great Destruction come. White Sovereign King nodded. He immediately transmitted a message through karma to that person in the 199th level of the dark abyss. Great destruction, come over. Chapter 601. Above the clouds. Dongbua Shuang and White Sovereign King were drinking wine, waiting for the arrival of Heavenly Emperor of Great Destruction. Brother Dongbua. Paragon Huacheng transmitted over, I heard you fought 1 against 3 and even killed a powerful existence. Not bad. I only killed a clone. Dongbua Shuang transmitted. That's already very powerful. Oh right, you have to be careful of White Sovereign King. That old man is vicious and merciless. He can do anything. Paragon Huacheng transmitted a reminder. Dongbua Shuang looked at White Sovereign King who was leisurely drinking wine and transmitted helplessly, I'm right in front of White Sovereign King. I'm accompanying him to drink, and in a while, Heavenly Emperor of Great Destruction will come over to discuss the matter of the blood demon scripture. Right in front of him. You are actually sitting together with that cold fellow. Woo! Great Destruction is coming over too. If Great Destruction was here, then the words of the White Sovereign King could be trusted. Because as long as Great Destruction says it, he will follow it even if he dies. And for White Sovereign King's words, you can only believe 1 out of 10 because he will fall out with you when he says so. Paragon Huacheng transmitted. Dongbua Shuang was stunned. Fall out with him when he says so? Only believe 1 out of 10. The majestic White Sovereign King was actually like this? Fortunately, Heavenly Emperor of Great Destruction had joined in, so there shouldn't be any tricks in this discussion. Who would have thought that Brother Dongbua, you would unknowingly become so strong? You should know some secrets. Even if I don't tell you, I reckon your teacher will tell you soon. Paragon Huacheng transmitted a large amount of information. These are the intelligence of all the experts in our vast cosmos, deity world, and abyss. No matter if they are extremely famous or low profile, as long as I know, I will record them here. Take a good look and know their strength and temperament. Only then will you know how to deal with them. Dongbua Shuiying's true deity heart was so strong that he was able to memorize a large amount of intelligence in an instant. So, in the past, Dongbua Shuiying only understood powerful existences. He knew very little about paragons. As for Paragon Huacheng, he was an extremely ancient paragon in the entire God world and abyss. He knew too many secrets. In the God world and abyss, Monarch Green is the strongest under the sovereigns. The second strongest would be the Heavenly Emperor of Great Destruction. Following closely are White Sovereign King, Bamboo Mountain Prefecture Master, Bitter Cultivator, Purgatory Great Commander, Mysterious North Imperial Empress, Paragon Huacheng, and a few others with similar strength. Dongbua Shuang looked at the detailed records and understood in his heart. Venerables could be divided into 3 levels. On the first level, Monarch Black and Emperor Great Destruction were able to wrestle with sovereigns. The second level was the Apex Paragons. White Sovereign King, Paragon Huacheng, Bamboo Mountain Prefecture Master, and others were all at this level. A long time ago, Pang Yi was also at this level, but the current Pang Yi was already unfathomable. The third level consisted of ordinary paragons, such as the Overlord of Destruction and Paragon Devil Kite. Most paragons were at this level. Of course, because they walked different paths, the strength they displayed was also different. Some were extremely adept at fleeing, and even sovereigns would find it difficult to kill them. Some of them had extremely powerful attacks, reaching the level of a ruler. However, their flaws in other areas were very obvious. For example, Ascetic Cultivator. Some were crafty, vicious, and bloodthirsty, like White Sovereign King. On the path of cultivation, one has to fight for opportunities as well. Don't look at how the deity world and abyss looked calm. In reality, for the sake of cultivating opportunities, rulers would disregard everything. When paragons truly go crazy, they would similarly kill as they wish. But fortunately, everyone's pursuit is different. The apex paragons all want to become rulers, and would usually not have any conflicts with powerful existences. Paragon Huacheng transmitted. Dongbua Shuang understood this point. Just like how powerful existences wanted to obtain true god weapons, absolute arts, etc. But to the apex paragons, they had already walked on their own Tao. They did not lack true god weapons, and they even had absolute arts. They would not compete with powerful existences. Thus, they would fight. Usually, they would fight on the same level. Just like how Blood Blade fought with Temporal Island Lord, Myriad God Palace Head, Bloody Ruler, and Purgatory Ruler. But occasionally, when some precious treasures are involved, it would still result in a fight between paragons and powerful existences. Like the original copy of an absolute art, under normal circumstances, powerful existences would not have the qualifications to grasp it. Paragon Huacheng transmitted, thus, it would cause such a huge problem. But now, White Sovereign King, that crafty old man, should have guessed that you have hidden the blood demon scripture, which is why he made a deal with you. And then, Dongbua Shuang also understood. The original copy of an absolute art. That was something that could be imparted time and time again. Indeed, powerful existences usually did not have the qualifications to obtain it. Dongbua Shuang's strength was close to the Paragon realm, and his defense was also extremely strong. More importantly, White Sovereign King and the rest believed that the blood demon scripture should be hidden in the vast water world. To search through the entire vast water world was simply too difficult. He would rather make a deal. Dongbua Shuang drank with White Sovereign King. White Sovereign King was a man of few words, while Dongbua Shuang was chatting with Paragon Huacheng. After a moment, Hong! A spatial fluctuation appeared in the distance. A figure appeared. When Dongbua Shuang sensed that aura, his heart tightened. Turning his head, he saw a muscular man with two black curved horns. His exposed skin was covered in dragon tattoos, as though dragons were coiling around his body. He stepped on the void and walked over. It was as though a vast world was pressing down on him. That sort of pressure caused Dongbua Shuang to hold his breath. He is Heavenly Emperor of Great Destruction. This was the first time Dongbua Shuang had personally seen this existence. His purple eyes were surging with lightning. His aura caused this layer of abyss world to tremble. When his eyes looked over, White Sovereign King's pupils constricted slightly. As for Dongbua Shuang, he could feel a terrifying will rushing over. For a moment, his perception of his surroundings became blurry. Even his true deity heart was trembling, and he could no longer distinguish his surroundings. He had turned into a blind man. However, Dongbua Shuang was still sitting very stably. And then, Heavenly Emperor of Great Destruction looked at Dongbua Shuang. The edge of his lips curled up. Interesting. You actually didn't kneel down? One had to know. Ordinary powerful existences would not be able to withstand the pressure of his will and would kneel down. Even though Dongbua Shuang had received a huge impact, his true deity heart was clear. His willpower was extraordinary, and he could still maintain his calm. Great Destruction. White Sovereign King stood up. Heavenly Emperor of Great Destruction also retracted his aura. With a step, he appeared beside the cloud table. Only then did Dongbua Shuang regain his perception of his surroundings. Seeing Heavenly Emperor of Great Destruction beside him, he stood up to welcome him. There was nothing much to say about his strength being inferior to others. However, he was still young, and he would naturally become stronger in the future. Ha ha ha, not bad. You actually didn't kneel down in front of me. For a stage 4 to have such strength, not bad at all. Heavenly Emperor of Great Destruction laughed. A member of the Army of Destruction. In our cosmos epic, other than Pang Yi, there's only him. How can he be weak? White Sovereign King laughed. You actually want to make a member of the Army of Destruction kneel down. Dongbua Shuang, after the trade, Old White Ghost will send you off safely. Heavenly Emperor of Great Destruction said, don't worry, he won't lie to you. When White Sovereign King heard the term Old White Ghost, he frowned. However, he still endured it. I believe the two of you. Dongbui Shuang said. You should be clear about the trade this time. Heavenly Emperor of Great Destruction said, I will let the two of you receive the second half of the Blood Demon scripture. Dongbui Shuang, I and Old White Ghost will learn the first half of the Blood Demon scripture. However, Old White Ghost, in this trade, you have contributed the least. White Sovereign King smiled. Dongbui Shuang wants to save a good friend. His friend has already died. I will help him revive from the river of time. Dongbui Shuang immediately said, Thank you, White Sovereign King. Qiu Qibai was only a transcendent. Reviving a transcendent was still very easy. If Qiu Qibai was a world deity, White Sovereign King would definitely not make such a promise. That's what I should do. A trade has to be fair. White Sovereign King laughed. Dongbui Shuang, go to the vast water world now and retrieve the original copy of the first half of the Blood Demon scripture. One was purely relying on one's own body. It had extremely high requirements for comprehension and willpower, and cultivating it was extremely painful. The other method was to rely on the help of countless ghosts, which was 10 times easier. If he relied on ghosts, the further he progressed, the more souls he would need to devour, and the further he progressed, the harder it would be. Below true divinity, it was still easy, but above true divinity, this ultimate art had almost no hope of reaching large success. Only by relying on oneself could one be considered the great Tao. Although the technique was evil, but his own strength was pure. If he could master the Blood Demon scripture, he would be able to completely change his life form. Not even sovereigns would be able to kill him, and his aura would be no weaker than the voodoo poison. His strength might even surpass Monarch Green and Heavenly Emperor of Great Destruction. Nirvana, how is it? Is it worth learning from? White Sovereign King had a smile on his face. Clearly, he was quite happy. Learning from? Heavenly Emperor of Great Destruction sneered, this inheritance of Ancestor Devil walks on the path of transforming one's body. Ultimately, even one's life form will be completely changed. If one truly wholeheartedly walks on this path, then that would be walking on the wrong path. You must know that back then, Ancestor Devil had 6 incarnations, and this is merely an inheritance created by one of them. The 6 incarnations are also 6 great inheritances. And Ancestor Devil's true body is inclusive of everything. Furthermore, the absolute art I created is even stronger than the Blood Demon scripture. Heavenly Emperor of Great Destruction's words were filled with absolute confidence. After obtaining the complete Blood Demon scripture, Heavenly Emperor of Great Destruction became disdainful after understanding it. Yes, yes, yes. Great Destruction, you are right. You are the one closest to a ruler in our abyss. White Sovereign King praised, I can't compare to you. I know my own limits. If I can take another step and become a ruler, then I will be satisfied. This Blood Demon scripture is still very useful to me. Heavenly Emperor of Great Destruction looked at White Sovereign King. He could only believe 1 out of 10 of White Sovereign King's words. He would be satisfied just by becoming a ruler. How was that possible? This old fellow. Heavenly Emperor of Great Destruction sneered inwardly. There were not many paragons that could make him wary. In the entire Dark Abyss, there were only 2. One was Purgatory Great Commander, and the other was White Sovereign King. Purgatory Great Commander was extremely formidable. He had already made Heavenly Emperor of Great Destruction suffer twice. But comparing the two, Heavenly Emperor of Great Destruction was more wary of White Sovereign King. On the surface, Purgatory Great Commander did not rely on a ruler. But in reality, he had a close relationship with one of the 3 rulers of the Abyss, Purgatory Ruler. White Sovereign King was different. He truly did not have any backing. Yet, he continued to stand tall. Formidable. This Blood Demon scripture is truly formidable. It is much better than what I expected. White's sovereign king was ecstatic in his heart. This encounter was much better than what he had expected. Who would have thought, this blood demon scripture is actually the same as the Tao I created myself. It seems to be from the same source. Dongbo Shuang, have you learned it all? Heavenly Emperor of Great Destruction asked. I've learned it all. Dongbo Shuang replied. Old White Ghost, revive the Transcendent from the River of Time. Heavenly Emperor of Great Destruction said. White's sovereign king's harvest was huge. Seeing that Dongbo Shuang was pleasing to the eye, he chuckled and said, of course. I did say that I would help revive him. Saying that, he stood up. Dongbo Shuang and Heavenly Emperor of Great Destruction also stood up. The three of them looked towards the distant sky. One controlling space-time. The area in front of them was originally shrouded in clouds. But suddenly, it was like peeling off the skin of a tangerine, revealing the flesh within. This layer of space became blurry, revealing a vast and mighty river at a deeper level. This river surged violently. It covered the entire universe, surging through the deity world, abyss, and even the material realm. Every single life. From stage 4 world deities to ants without any intelligence, all of them were sinking in the river of time. This river of time and the vast universe seemed to be on a different level. It was like, there were two levels. The deity world, abyss, and material realm were on the same level. As for the river of time, it was on an even deeper level. The river of time recorded every single life that was sinking. From birth to death, as long as they had not transcended, it would be recorded. This is truly unbearable. Dongbo Shuang also saw himself. He was within the river as well. His body was huge, and his aura was powerful. He was the largest body within the vast river. After all, the strongest being sinking in the river of time was only a stage 4 world deity. And it was difficult to find a stage 4 world deity stronger than Dongbo Shuang. Only Bamboo Mountain Prefecture Master was stronger. But Bamboo Mountain Prefecture Master was ultimately in a different part of the river. Within this part of the river, that towering figure was incomparably huge. Around it were countless lives that were sinking. Billions of them surrounded Dongbo Shuang. Dongbo Shuang. On the shore of the void beside the river of time, there were two figures. They were precisely White's sovereign king and Heavenly Emperor of Great Destruction. The two of them had already transcended. They had left the river and reached the shore. Standing on the shore, White Sovereign King and Heavenly Emperor of Great Destruction looked at the countless lives within the river, as well as at Dongbo Shuang. You are acquainted with Qiu Qi Bai. Check the time-space of your past and find him. White Sovereign King asked. All right. Dongbo Shuang had grasped the complete time-space deity heart. Even within the river of time, he could observe the other lives that were sinking, and he could also observe himself. Behind him, there were layers upon layers of shadows. These shadows were the countless records from his birth until now. Amongst them, there was a record of him and Qiu Qi Bai. Chapter 603. The river of time was vast and unfathomable. The shadows went deep into the river, and there were even some that intersected with each other. Amidst these intersecting shadows, Dongbo Shuang saw countless familiar lives. Some were alive, and some were dead. Even Xiang Pangyun, Si Lianghong, Uncle Tong, Qingling Shu, and the others could be seen clearly. Their lives were relatively short, and were inconspicuous in the river of time. Compared to Dongbo Shuaying's body, they were like little tadpoles. When I transcend in the future, I'll definitely revive Uncle Tong and the rest. Dongbo Shuang thought, I'll let you guys have an even more exciting life. But it was foreseeable. Even if they were revived in the future, it would be hard for most of them to become deities. The possibility of becoming a world deity was extremely low, and their lifespan would be very short as well. Usually, they would live until their true deity heart crumbled, and they would die. Once their true deity heart crumbled, there was no way to revive them. Because the moment they revived, their true deity heart would crumble again. White Sovereign King, if it's possible, can you revive my good friend's wife? Dongbui Shuang asked. He was very clear of the relationship between Qiu Qibai and his true love. His wife is also a transcendent, a very weak one. Ha ha ha, alright, I'll revive her as well. White Sovereign King stood by the side of the void shore and agreed with a smile. Firstly, the blood demon scripture had helped him immensely, and secondly, reviving a weak transcendent was very easy. If it was reviving a deity, he would most likely hesitate. It's these two. Dongbui Shuiying's enormous body lightly pointed. He controlled the time-space energy to envelop Qiu Qibai and the other girl. That girl and Qiu Qibai had intersected many times. Qiu Qibai only ended his life in madness when Dongbui Shuiying killed the Howling Devil cult leader. As for that girl, she was whipped until she dissipated. But that was all Dongbui Shuiying could do. He could not revive them. Leave it to me. White Sovereign King was incomparably confident. He stood on the shore of the void and stretched out his hand. His arm expanded until it reached into the void river. With just a single hand, he easily grabbed Qi Qiu Bai and that woman. Then, he forcefully moved them to the surface of the river of time. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. This was a river of time. Different depths represented different times. The deeper the river was, the more ancient it was. And the surface of the river represented the present. Under the protection of the White Sovereign King's right hand, Qi Qiu Bai and his wife were forcefully shifted to the surface of the river. During the process of shifting, the entire river had formed a resistance. The mysterious power of the river of time was incomparably vast. Fortunately, Qi Qiu Bai and his wife were very small, like little tadpoles. Moving them to the surface of the river produced very little resistance. The White Sovereign King was still relatively relaxed. The moment they moved to the surface of the river, it meant that the two of them had lived until now. What are they doing? In the distance, there was a figure that was tens of thousands of times larger than Qi Qiu Bai and the rest, but only about 1,000th the size of Dongbui Shuiying. He raised his head and saw White Sovereign King and Heavenly Emperor of Great Destruction at the shore of the void. He also saw White Sovereign King extending his hand into the river of time to fish out the lives within. Is he reviving lives? This Stage 2 world deity had just comprehended the time-space deity heart and was able to inspect the river of time. Heavenly Emperor of Great Destruction, who was at the shore, sensed something and looked over. The Stage 2 world deity was so frightened that he immediately gave up on inspecting. His consciousness left the river of time, and his figure became muddle-headed once more. In midair, two figures appeared beside Dongbui Shuiying, White Sovereign King, and Heavenly Emperor of Great Destruction. The two figures were condensing. They were a snow-white robed man and a black-robed woman. However, they were only soul bodies. The snow-white robed man could still maintain his calm, but the black-robed woman's face was distorted. Her entire soul body was trembling. And then, White Sovereign King frowned slightly. Because he was the one who saved them, these two lives had been shifted to the side of his true body. She seems to be unable to endure the memories. White Sovereign King immediately sent his energy into the black-robed woman's body. He easily flipped through her memories and forcefully sealed the final memory of her being tortured. Controlling the soul of a weak transcendent was simply too easy for the high and mighty White Sovereign King. After sealing the final memory, the black-robed woman regained her calm. And then, Qi Qiu Bai and the woman, Wu Shi, opened their eyes and regained their consciousness. They saw each other. Little Shi. Qi Qiu Bai was extremely surprised. Qiu Bai. The black-robed woman was also filled with disbelief and excitement. Their final memories were also different. Qi Qiu Bai clearly remembered that he was used by an abyss sovereign called Howling Devil cult leader to cultivate his secret technique. Even after experiencing the terrifying torture, he still did not dissipate. It was just that he no longer had any memories of what happened after that. The black-robed woman remembered that she was constantly being tortured. Chi Qiu Bai was also being tortured. As for what happened after that, she did not know. What happened after that was actually an endless cycle of torture. This part was temporarily sealed. Didn't I already? The black-robed woman looked around. Chi Qiu Bai also looked to the side. The two of them were startled. Because right beside them were White Sovereign King, Heavenly Emperor of Great Destruction, and Dongbu Shuang. When they first saw these three, Chi Qiu Bai and the rest could only feel three boundless auras that were hard to fathom. The difference in the quality of life was too great. Fortunately, Heavenly Emperor of Great Destruction and the rest had completely retracted their auras. Otherwise, a slight aura impact would be enough to kill them. Closely following that, Chi Qiu Bai could clearly see that one of the three boundless auras was someone he recognized. Snow Eagle. Chi Qiu Bai was startled. In his memories, although the Dongbu Shuang during the final war was very powerful, it was far from being comparable to the one in front of him. The feeling that Dongbu Shuang gave him had already far surpassed that of the great demon god. It had also surpassed that Abyss Sovereign, Howling Devil cult leader, who had an extremely high status. Dongbu Shuang, I have already revived the two of them from the River of Time. White Sovereign King chuckled. The deal between us is more or less done. In a while, I will send you out of the dark abyss. I will have to trouble White Sovereign King. Dongbu Shuang said. There shouldn't be a need for me to personally reconstruct their fleshly bodies, right? If I were to personally act, I'm afraid that the energy of the dark abyss would be condensing their fleshly bodies. To you material realm beings, I'm afraid they don't really like the energy of the dark abyss. White Sovereign King said. Leave this to me. Dongbu Shuang said. Reconstructing a fleshly body was still very simple. Oh right, that girl's willpower is relatively weak. The torment she experienced is something that even she can't handle. Thus, I have temporarily sealed a portion of her memories. As time passes, this portion of memories will gradually recover. With a gradual acceptance process, the effects on her will be much smaller. White Sovereign King said. Although White Sovereign King was cunning and ruthless, when it came to doing things, he would try his best to do it perfectly. Dongbu Shuang nodded. Chi Qiu Bai and the black-robed girl heard it as well. Eternal Wind, sister-in-law. Dongbu Shuang looked at Chi Qiu Bai and the black-robed girl. He chuckled. I will bring the two of you out of the dark abyss first. As for other matters, we can slowly talk about it when we reach the deity world. All right. Chi Qiu Bai nodded. His eyes were filled with gratitude. He looked at his wife and gently hugged her. Hugging the person he loved was something he had dreamt of for many years. He had finally achieved it. Chapter 604. The black-robed girl was also suspicious of the identity of Dongbu Shuang, because she did not know him. But from the side, she understood that the reason why she and Qiu Bai could be revived from the River of Time was because of this Dongbu Shuang. Feeling Qiu Bai hugging her, the black-robed girl revealed a faint smile. Her heart was filled with sweetness. This was also what she had been longing for. Old white ghost, send them off. The deal is over, and I'll be leaving too. Heavenly Emperor of Great Destruction said. This time, I have to thank Heavenly Emperor of Great Destruction. Dongbu Shuang immediately expressed his gratitude. Without Heavenly Emperor of Great Destruction, Dongbu Shuang did not dare to trust White Sovereign King. Ha ha ha. Heavenly Emperor of Great Destruction laughed. He glanced at White Sovereign King, then turned and disappeared into the time-space tunnel. White Sovereign King glanced at Dongbu Shuang and was too lazy to speak. He also knew that his reputation wasn't too good. Let's go. White Sovereign King shouted. Let's go. Dongbu Shuang waved his hand, keeping Qiu Qi and his wife into his Eden treasure. Then, he followed White Sovereign King into the time-space tunnel to return. With White Sovereign King escorting them, the return journey was naturally much safer. Actually, with Dongbu Shuiying's current strength, as long as it wasn't a paragon, there was nothing that could threaten him. Even if it was that Patrol Devil King, Dongbu Shuiying reckoned that he would only be able to suppress him. Hoo-hoo! Finally, they passed through the outermost layer of the dark abyss, passing through the blurry darkness. Following the time-space tunnel, Dongbu Shuiying felt that the will of the dark abyss, which represented destruction, darkness, and slaughter, had finally retreated. When they walked out of the time-space tunnel, they were already in the void. It was the territory of the deity world. Dongbu Shuiying. White Sovereign King walked out of the time-space tunnel and stood in the void. The corner of his lips curled upwards. This time, you were able to bring away the original copy of the Blood Demon scripture from my territory. However, don't be too complacent. You should focus on cultivating and be able to transcend the river of time as soon as possible. If he can't transcend, he'll only have a lifespan of 10 billion years. It would be a disgrace to me if a pitiful fellow who can't transcend took away the original copy of an ultimate technique from me. There's no need for Sovereign King to worry about this. Dongbu Shuiying replied calmly. The commander of the Army of Destruction was a Stage 4 world deity. He had told Dongbu Shuiying many times that the realm was the foundation. Dongbu Shuiying understood this as well. If he did not transcend, everything would be for naught. Sovereign King, let us bid farewell here. Dongbu Shuiying said. White Sovereign King nodded and turned to leave, once again returning to the dark abyss. Meanwhile, a starfield flying ship appeared in front of Dongbu Shuiying. He stepped onto the starfield flying ship and began traveling through time. Standing on the deck of the starfield flying ship were Dongbu Shuiying, Qiu Qi, and the black-robed woman, Wu Shi. The two of them had reconstructed their fleshly bodies. To Dongbu Shuiying, reconstructing their fleshly bodies was as easy as lifting his hand. Who would have thought that I, Qiu Qi, would have such a day? Qiu Qi stood at the bow of the ship, looking at the colorful time-space tunnel around him. You've actually reconstructed your fleshly bodies and even come to the deity world. Little Shi is here as well. Qiu Bai. The black-robed woman smiled. Dongbu Shuiying was very happy to see this scene. In truth, Eternal Wind had always been living in torment. In the end, he was even tortured by De Hao for many years. Then, he was forced to cultivate the Blood Demon scripture by Howling Devil cult leader. In his previous life, Eternal Wind's life was too sullen. Even his true love, Wu Shi, was tortured to death by De Hao. It was a tragedy. Now that he could change everything, Dongbu Shuiying felt happy for Qiu Qi. Snow Eagle, I will remember this kindness. Qiu Qi said. However, I'm afraid that with your current strength and status, it will be hard for me to repay you. What are you talking about? Eternal Wind, where do you and your wife intend to go? To the Xia people's world? Or to the deity world? Dongbu Shuiying asked. The Xia people's world also has the Crimson Rock Mountain world. If you want to enter the Crimson Rock Mountain world, it will be easy. Let's go to the Xia people's world. Qiu Qi looked at his wife. Little Shi and I have been away from our homeland for far too long. The black-robed woman smiled. All right. Dongbu Shuiying nodded. The starfield flying ship was extremely fast. When they reached their destination, Dongbu Shuiying brought them directly into the material plane, the Xia people's world. In midair in the Xia people's world, the black-robed woman, Wu Shi, stood in midair, looking at the bustling and vast world. Her eyes brightened. Xia people, our homeland, we're back. Qiu Qi revealed a smile. Then I'll be leaving first. I won't disturb the two of you any longer. Ha ha ha, if there's anything, just send a message to me. Dongbu Shuiying laughed before taking a step and disappearing. Only then did Qiu Qibai and Wuxi return to their own world, looking at each other. I have many things I wish to do. Qiu Qibai said. Me too. Wuxi said, Qiu Bai, follow me. I'll bring you to a place. The two turned into streams of light, flying high up in the sky. Dongbui Shuang brought the true god weapon flying knife with him as he left the Xia people's world. With his current strength, and having refined the flying knife, he could naturally bring it with him. Who? The Starfield flying ship arrived at the Bloodshed God Palace. Dongbui Shuang was in a good mood. Other than the earth-shattering change in his combat power, the main reason was that he had helped Eternal Wind. Eternal Wind's innate talent was split into two when he was a transcendent. Even so, he was still able to grasp hold of a grade 2 true meaning. His innate talent is extremely high. It's just that I don't know how far he'll be able to walk after experiencing so many tribulations. Dongbui Shuang was looking forward to it. In the entire history of the Xia people, in terms of innate talent, other than himself and Jing Qiu, who was a stage 3 world deity reincarnated, Qiu Qibai was the next best. Even if his own children were outstanding, they were still slightly lacking when compared to Qiu Qibai. This was because his children had been nurtured by him and Jing Qiu since they were young, and the cultivation resources they received were many times better than what Qiu Qibai had received in the past. As soon as he landed in the Bloodshed God Palace, Dongbui Shuang rushed towards the Crimson Stone courtyard. Suddenly, a voice transmitted over. Snow Eagle, come over here. A voice resounded by his ears. Teacher? Dongbui Shuang immediately confirmed it and rushed over to where his teacher was. It was the courtyard of a wooden house. Within the wooden house, there was only the crimson-robed Blood Blade standing there. The black bird was nowhere to be seen. Dongbui Shuang walked in from outside the courtyard. Stepping forward, he respectfully said, Disciple greets teacher. The disturbance you've caused this time is not small. Blood Blade smiled. Fighting 1 against 3, killing one of the powerful existences from the abyss, and even bringing the original copy of the first half of the Blood Demon scripture out of the abyss. Those 3 rulers from the abyss must feel embarrassed. Even though I've been paying attention to this matter, it's not good for me to interfere. The moment I do, those 3 rulers from the abyss will definitely interfere. Disciple understands, Dongbui Shuang replied. The Army of Destruction's ultimate art is truly impressive. You have such strength after reaching the 4th firmament, praised Blood Blade. Your current strength is already considered top-notch amongst the powerful existences. Your strength is close to that of a supremacy. Dongbui Shuang agreed with this point. The stronger you are, the more responsibilities you have to bear, said Blood Blade with a smile. As the Bloodshed Tavern owner, you are naturally responsible for more areas. Dongbui Shuang immediately received a message. It was a message from the Bloodshed Tavern's internal system, informing him of the changes in the areas he was responsible for. Yes, Dongbui Shuang immediately responded. He could bear this bit of responsibility. With your current strength, you should understand some things, said Blood Blade calmly. The path of cultivation is unavoidable. If you don't fight for opportunities, you will fall into the hands of your opponents. Your opponents will become stronger and trample on you. Falling behind once, falling behind twice. If this continues, you will only be left further and further behind. Thus, the path of cultivation must be fought for. You must pay attention to both internal and external resources. This disciple understands. Dongbui Shuang nodded. Because he had obtained the 3 special treasures left behind by that venerable who had been sealed in ice, the Scarlet Bracelet and the other 2 items. The Scarlet Bracelet and the other 2 items all contained the Tao of Spacetime, which allowed him to comprehend the Spacetime deity heart with fewer obstacles. If not for these 3 treasures, it would have been normal for him to spend hundreds of thousands of years to become a stage 4 world deity. It was also because of the true god weapon, the flying knife, that his understanding of the world-profound mysteries within the slaughter and mirage had greatly increased, allowing him to master the extreme annihilation mysterious body much faster. His spear's secret skill, destruction, had also greatly increased in power. Otherwise, if his spear technique wasn't strong enough, he might not have been able to escape from the three of them. These were all resources. One's own internal cultivation was important, but external resources could be used as a catalyst. All sorts of battles have divided the deity world and dark abyss into many superpowers. Many powerful existences have chosen to rely on me for the sake of survival. Bloodblade said, however, I can only ensure the safety of their avatars within the Bloodshed God Palace territory. As for fighting and killing outside, I will not participate in the battles between ordinary powerful existences. Pang Yi, Destruction, and Bamboo Mountain are all paragons, so it would not be good for them to participate. Dongbua Shuang nodded. Other than the many independent powerful existences under me, there are also the monarchs of the 5 directions, Bloodblade said. The monarchs of the 5 directions? Dongbua Shuang felt puzzled. He truly did not know of this. The monarchs of the 5 directions must have combat power close to that of a paragon. I will also do my best to groom them. When fighting outside, the many powerful existences of my Bloodshed God Palace will usually see them as their leaders. Bloodblade said, however, there are currently only 2 monarchs of the 5 directions, Gutsong and Beihu. Dongbua Shuang knew of these 2. Monarch Gutsong was his senior disciple brother, and had a combat power close to that of a paragon. Palace Master Beihu was an extremely ancient powerful existence, and had a combat power close to that of a paragon. The other powerful existences do not have enough combat power, so they naturally do not have the qualifications to take up this role. Bloodblade looked at Dongbua Shuang. Even though you are only a stage 4 deity, your combat power is sufficient. Thus, I hope that you will become the 3rd monarch of the 5 directions. From today onwards, the group of powerful existences of the Bloodshed God Palace will also be led by the 3 of you to fight against other superpowers. Bloodblade said, the more responsibilities you have, the more you will obtain. This will also be of great help to your cultivation and transcendence. Dongbua Shuang immediately replied, yes, this disciple understands. End of this chapter. Today was the first chapter. Tomorrow, he would begin the 20th chapter, Monarch Dongbua. You have to constantly pursue the power of your secret skill. Bloodblade reminded him. I can't pursue power too much. Dongbua Shuang was puzzled. Take a look at Bamboo Mountain's example, and you will know. The moment Bloodblade finished speaking, he immediately transmitted a large amount of information to his disciple. Dongbua Shuang immediately sensed that his communication treasure had received a large amount of information. It was a large amount of detailed information regarding the deity world and the dark abyss. The information was even more detailed than what Paragon Huacheng had given him. Within it, there was a detailed introduction of Bamboo Mountain Prefecture Master regarding his cultivation. So that's how it is. That's why he hasn't transcended. Dongbua Shuang was shocked, but at the same time, he came to a realization. Do you understand now? Bloodblade said. This disciple understands. However, I am still far from reaching this step. Dongbua Shuang said. Your current accumulations aren't deep enough, so you don't have to worry too much about this. Bloodblade said, furthermore, the number of stage 4 world deities who could reach this step can be counted with one's fingers in the many Cosmos epics. In our Cosmos epic, only Bamboo Mountain has done it. Dongbua Shuang nodded. Also, if you have any karma entangling you, resolve it as soon as possible. Bloodblade reminded, some karma can affect one's cultivation. Yes. Dongbua Shuang said. His own karma wasn't much. What was more important was the karma with his family and friends. These karma were all goodwill, and wouldn't affect one's cultivation. Even if the karma with Chihua Laozu was heavier, Chihua Laozu had saved Jing Qiu in the past. However, Chihua Laozu was also a friend. He didn't intentionally request anything from Dongbu Shuang, so it wouldn't affect him much. What did affect him was the enmity with Old Ancestor Black Devil. Old Ancestor Black Devil was the murderer who killed Sacred Master Crimson Dust. Since he was Sacred Master Crimson Dust's personal disciple, there would naturally be enmity between them. However, Sacred Master Crimson Dust didn't request his disciple to take revenge before transcending. Thus, this karma wouldn't affect him much. To you, the most important thing to take note of before transcending are these 2 points. Blood Blade smiled. With a flip of his hand, he tossed a triangular talisman to Dongbu Shuang. This is the key to the Black Fog Seas array. Because it's too dangerous, I've already set up an array. Outsiders won't be able to enter. Dongbu Shuang immediately caught it. Master, you've mentioned the Cosmos Epic many times before. Dongbu Shuang hurriedly said, you even mentioned that the corpse cave was left behind by the second Cosmos Epic. Which Cosmos Epic is our current epic considered? And the owner of Lake Heart Island? Chapter 606. Flowers and plants will wither, the world will be born and destroyed, and the universe will rise and fall. The period from the birth of life to the great apocalypse can be considered as an epic. Blood Blade looked at Dongbu Shuang. Just like how the mortal world in the material plane can only last for a short period of time, the length of every epic is different. If we have too many life forms, the burden on the universe will be too great, or if we destroy too much, this epic will be shorter, and we will enter the great apocalypse faster. Dongbu Shuang listened carefully. Strictly speaking, this epic of ours is the 8th epic. Blood Blade sighed, it can be considered an ordinary epic. According to the number of experts that were born, the most dazzling epic was the 3rd epic. The 3rd epic gave birth to the 2 most impressive existences. One was the owner of Lake Heart Island, and the other was the Devil Ancestor. The 8th epic? Dongbu Shuang nodded slightly. That's all in the past. Now, we can only find traces of them in some ruins. Blood Blade said, alright, the most important thing for you to do now is to focus on cultivation and transcend as soon as possible. With your talent, if you are fast enough, you should be able to transcend in 1,000,000 years. Dongbu Shuang instantly felt that his master had high hopes for him. Transcend in 1,000,000 years? Disciple will do his best. Dongbu Shuang said. Oh. Blood Blade didn't think too much about it. Instead, he changed the topic. I originally wanted to choose a suitable treasure for you after exploring the ancient cave dwelling. But your strength improved faster than I expected. Now, you're already close to the Paragon realm. You're not suited to chase after strength now. You should grasp the laws of heaven and earth as soon as possible. I really don't have any treasures to give you at the moment. Leave this treasure with me for now. When you transcend, I will give it to you. This will greatly increase your chances of opening your Dao. Blood Blade smiled. Disciple is not in a hurry. The stronger disciple is, the better the treasures master will give me. Dongbu Shuang smiled. Alright. Bloodshed God Emperor laughed, go. Go busy yourself with your matters. This disciple will take his leave. Dongbu Shuang bowed and retreated. Blood Blade smiled and nodded as he watched Dongbu Shuang leave. In the long years of cultivation, his loved ones would gradually pass away. Instead, the master and disciple would accompany each other for a longer time. To Blood Blade and the others, the relationship between master and disciple would gradually become the most important emotion in their hearts. Of course, those heartless people were another matter. Swoosh! After leaving his master's place, Dongbu Shuang flew towards the Crimson Stone courtyard. Flying high up in the sky, they could not travel through space here, so they could only fly slowly. While flying, Dongbo Shuang was carefully reading through the large amount of information given to him by his master. With the identity of the blood blade, the information he provided was much more detailed, allowing Dongbo Shuang to have a more detailed understanding of the entire universe. So this is the reason why Bamboo Mountain Prefecture Master couldn't transcend. No wonder the general of the Army of Destruction regretted it so much, Dongbo Shuang thought. Normal cultivation. He should be able to comprehend the deity hearts one by one after reaching the 4th level of heaven. In the end, after accumulating enough knowledge, he instantly comprehended all the profound mysteries of the laws of heaven and earth into a complete whole, the laws of heaven and earth. From then on, he became a true god. After becoming a true god, they researched secret skills or created their own secret arts, constantly researching the profound mysteries of the laws. Finally, one day, they comprehended a Tao that was above the laws of the world. After opening up one's own Tao, one would become a venerable. The Tao he had established was still very immature and needed to be constantly perfected. Once this Tao reached a truly eternal level, he would be a sovereign. For example, Blood Blade had opened up the Blood Blade Path, Shadow Path, and Destruction Path. The Temporal Island Lord had opened the Tao of Spacetime. For example, the Spacetime Tao. In order to establish this Tao, one had to have a deeper understanding of the spacetime laws and profundities. By combining them, one would have to comprehend even more profound spacetime laws and profundities to form the spacetime Tao. Therefore, in order to open the Tao of spacetime, one did not need to understand the splitting heaven deity heart, karma deity heart, etc. There was no need to understand the laws of the world. Therefore, in theory, a stage 4 world deity could open their own Tao if their realm was deep enough. Bamboo Mountain Prefecture Master was a stage 4 world deity who had yet to grasp the complete laws of the world when he first opened the Destruction Lightning Tao. From then on, he had the power of a paragon. However, he did not transcend. According to the records, Dongbo Shuang thought to himself, in our current cosmos epoch, only Bamboo Mountain Prefecture Master was able to open his Tao at stage 4. According to the information provided by Master, the number of stage 4 world deities who could do this can be counted with one's fingers. That was indeed the case. Those powerful existences had cultivated for a long period of time, but there were very, very few who could reach the paragon level. And those who could open their own Tao were even rarer. Clearly, opening one's own Tao was much harder than grasping the complete laws of the world. Under normal circumstances, a stage 4 world deity would not open his Tao. But if such a genius were to appear, it would instead be troublesome. Dongbo Shuang sighed, wanting to transcend would be even harder. What was transcendence? Transcendence was to transcend the river of time and ascend the riverbank. Only with the help of the complete laws of the world could one break free from the restrictions of the river of time. But the strength of life forms in the river of time was different. Mortals were weak, transcendents were weak, and deities and world deities were getting stronger. For instance, Dongbo Shuiying's body was extremely huge within the river of time, much bigger than an ordinary stage 4 world deity. The bigger the body, the stronger the restrictions of the river of time. Therefore, even if one were to revive, the bigger the body, the harder it would be to revive. After all, it was too heavy and impossible to fish out. As for Bamboo Mountain Prefecture Master, as a stage 4 world deity who had opened his own Tao, his body was 100 times bigger than Dongbo Shuiying's. With such a huge body, even if he grasped the complete laws of the world, he would not be able to break free from the restrictions of the river of time. He had to obtain even stronger laws of the world, and he could only become a ruler. Once he became a ruler, the Tao he opened would also be perfect and eternal. Only with this Tao could he transcend. For a stage 4 world deity to open a Tao, he can only transcend after becoming a ruler. Dongbo Shuang shook his head. Bamboo Mountain Prefecture Master and the commander of the Army of Destruction are truly pitiful. No wonder they say that one cannot be too obsessed with power and pursue secret skills. Ordinary cultivators do not have such problems. I can be considered to be quite talented, and I have always been pursuing the power of my secret skills. Who knows, one day, I might have a stroke of luck and open my own Dao. That would also be troublesome. Dongbua Shuang grinned. He knew that the chances of this happening were extremely low. After all, there were only a handful of such people across the many epochs. Even if he deliberately pursued power, he might not be able to do so. Otherwise, Nine-Yang Palace Head, Purple-Gowned Hex Emperor, Patrol Devil King, and the others would not have been unable to become paragons after so many years. Some ordinary world deities thought that Bamboo Mountain Prefecture Master relied on an absolute art to become so heaven-defying. Dongbua Shuang shook his head, but now, it seems like it was a huge joke. Actually, he had long suspected this. Why was Bamboo Mountain Prefecture Master so dazzling? Was his absolute art so special? Could it be that the absolute arts of Bloodblade and the other rulers were inferior to Bamboo Mountain Prefecture? Now that he was stronger, Dongbua Shuang finally understood the secret behind it. In the entire God Realm and Abyss, Monarch Green, who was recognized as the closest to a ruler, was ranked 10th. But my ranking isn't there. Dongbua Shuang mumbled inwardly. In terms of strength, he was definitely stronger than Forefather Fierce Tyrant and some other almighty existences. I have just broken through this time, and that's why I revealed my true strength. I should have to wait until the next ranking list is released before I can be listed on it. ******** Crimson Stone Courtyard. Father. As soon as Dongbua Shuang appeared in the cave abode, his daughter, Dongbua Qingyao, immediately rushed over to greet him. Snow Eagle. Jing Qiu and Monarch Emo Shui appeared as well. Father, I heard that you fought against 3 almighty existences by yourself, and even killed one. Dongbua Qingyao's eyes lit up. She looked forward to such a scene. Dongbua Shuang looked at his daughter and chuckled, I only killed an avatar. It is common for almighty existences to die in a battle, but most of them are just avatars. It is rare for both true body and avatar to be destroyed. Good son-in-law, the scene of dark abyss surrounding you was huge. So many abyss sovereigns made a move, and even Patrol Devil King and Emperor Qi Hai made a move, and there was even the legendary White Sovereign King behind them. It is already amazing that you could come back alive. Many of my old friends said that the chances of His Highness Dongbua coming out alive is very low. It's a pity that they guessed wrongly. Monarch Emo Shui praised. Dongbua Shuang chuckled and said, Oh right, Master allowed me to become one of the 5 monarchs, and even gave me a conferred land. Let us prepare to set off. 5 monarchs? Monarch Emo Shui, Jing Qiu, Dongbua, and Qingyao were all puzzled. It is only an official position, a rather special one. Dongbua Shuang said, even though it is said to be one of the 5 monarchs, in reality, there are only 2 of them. They are Palace Master Beihu and my senior apprentice brother Guzong. Palace Master Beihu and Monarch Guzong. Even amongst the almighty existences, they are incredible existences. Monarch Emo Shui immediately understood that these 5 monarchs were incredible. There is a conferred land. Jing Qiu was also puzzled. In Black Fog Sea. Dongbua Shuang said, of course, I have to go and rebuild it. Oh right, where is Yu? Yu has been stuck at a bottleneck, unable to break through, and is wandering outside. I have already sent a message to Yu, telling him to come back as soon as possible. However, he said that he still needs to delay for a few more days, and should be back in half a month. Jing Qiu said. How about this, let him go directly to Black Fog Sea. Dongbua Shuang said, we will not wait for him. On the same day, Dongbua Shuang brought his wife and a group of people to board the Starfield flying ship, heading towards Black Fog Sea. That is Black Fog Sea. Dongbua and Qingyao's eyes were very bright, looking excitedly at the vast black fog in the starry sky. I heard that there is a huge array enveloping this place, making it impossible to get close. Monarch Imo Shui said. Dongbui Shuang said, "You guys wait here." South. He directly tore through the sky and left alone. Jing Qiu, Monarch Imo Shui, Dongbui, and Qing Yao all stood on the deck of the flying ship, watching the scene from afar. They only saw Dongbui Shuang easily passing through the array, arriving at the edge of Black Fog Sea. "Let's begin." Dongbui Shuang looked at the endless rolling black fog by his side. This would be his territory, and if he became a powerful existence, he would most likely stay here for a long time. Powerful existences would all have their own territories, and even the Bloodshed God Emperor had his own place, the Bloodshed God Palace. After all, he was most familiar with the place he built. After all, it could be continuously strengthened over the long years. Hong Long Long, Dongbui Shuang directly activated the world energy. With his current attainments in the aspect of the world, he could control the world energy within a range of 3 trillion kilometers. The world energy could transform into the myriad existences. The prerequisite was to understand the structure of matter. Condense. Following Dongbui Shuiying's thought, one could see the endless land within 3 trillion kilometers being formed. The land was thick, and the deeper one went, the denser it became. All sorts of rocks, metals, and even more unique precious materials were formed. Naturally, these precious materials were only valued by transcendents or ordinary deities. After all, the precious materials that could be dissected by Dongbui Shuiying were all relatively ordinary. By transforming the world energy, he could have as many as he wanted. A huge piece of land began to appear, surrounding the Black Fog Sea. The Black Fog Sea occupied roughly half of the land. On the land, there were rivers surging. Vegetation grew, and the mountains rose and fell. The scenery was beautiful. At the very center of the continent was a vast chain of palaces. Some were for guests, some were for guards, some were for disciples, some were for animals from the immortal world, and some were for juniors and disciples to cultivate, go on adventures, train, and so on. There were also places for him to enter closed-door cultivation, places for him to research secret techniques, and places to receive guests. Even so, Dongbui Shuiying's palaces were relatively ordinary when compared to the territories of other powerful existences. After all, he was too young, and the number of people following him was relatively few. Thus, the number of palaces he needed was relatively few. There are also arrays. Although Dongbui Shuiying was not that formidable in the field of arrays, he had researched the spacetime array within the Scarlet Wristband, as well as the Tao within the True God Weapon Flying Knife. There were also all sorts of arrays for cultivating absolute arts. Naturally, this allowed Dongbui Shuiying to reach a relatively high level of attainment in the field of arrays. He also began to set up a large number of arrays wantonly. The Mirage Array, Spacetime Array, and Material Array were especially common. The Material Array mainly borrowed some of the profound mysteries of the Extreme Annihilation mysterious body. Although it was far from being as sturdy as his black armor, only Stage 4 world deities would be able to shake it. The Spacetime Array also caused the space in many places to change. The Mirage Array borrowed some of the profound mysteries of the Tao of Mirage. It was even more mysterious and unfathomable. Even Stage 4 world deities could get lost in it. Although it seemed fast, in reality, Dongbui Shuiying had spent more than 3 days before he finally completed the construction of his territory. Only after it was done did he inform all his subordinates in the East Region City Supervisor Envoy residence to come over. Now that he had become a monarch of the 5 directions, he naturally would no longer hold the position of Supervisor Envoy. This shall be our home from now on. Dongbui Shuiying, his wife Jing Qiu, his daughter Qing Yao, and Monarch Imo Shui were walking together on the spacious plaza, looking at the distant chain of palaces. This is the simplest form you can have at the very beginning. If you have any ideas for your own residences, feel free to tell me. Dongbui Shuiying laughed. His own territory would naturally continue to strengthen as he grew stronger. Good son-in-law, the news of your promotion has already spread. When the time comes, there will probably be many who will come to pay a visit to you, Monarch Dongbui. Monarch Imo Shui laughed. you have also just constructed a fief and opened a residence. It would be best if you organize a banquet and invite many powerful existences. Dongbo Shuang nodded his head. Obtaining a fief and opening a residence was a huge matter for cultivators. Hence, it was indeed necessary to organize a banquet. Father-in-law, you should be familiar with such matters. I'll leave it to you. Dongbo Shuang laughed. Good, good, good. Monarch Imo Shui laughed as he agreed. Contacting powerful existences from all over was also a matter of face. Before reincarnating, being able to have such a face made him extremely happy. Jing Qiu said from the side, Snow Eagle, you still have to get people from the Bloodshed God Palace to hurry over and construct a time-space teleportation array here. Alright. Dongbo Shuang nodded his head. Without a time-space teleportation array, it would be troublesome for those who were weaker and did not have a starfield flying ship. For example, his own son Dongbo Yu did not have a starfield flying ship. Suddenly, a voice resounded in Dongbo Shui Ying's ears, Dongbo, I have just slightly modified this Cosmos Deity Demon list. This is something that I created in my free time. I will only inform the cultivators on the list. Primal Master's voice was still very familiar to Dongbo Shuang, and he immediately recognized it. Following which, the newest Cosmos Deity Demon list was sent over. Chapter 608. The identity of the Primal Master had always been a secret. Many Stage 4 world deities did not even know of the existence of this ruler. Amongst the rulers, he was the most low-profile and the most transcendent one. At the same time, he was also the most ancient one. Coupled with the fact that the Cosmos Deity Demon list that he created was only given to the experts that were on the list, the reputation of the Cosmos Deity Demon list was small, and very few people knew about it. In the vast universe, only the true peak existences knew about it. Dongbo Shuang watched carefully. First, Blood Blade second, Abyss Progenitor third, Primeval Master, number 8, Pang E number 9, Bloody Dominator 10th place, Monarch Qing 11th, Heavenly Emperor of Great Destruction No. 12, Monarch Hex Cricket 13th, Water Demon King 14th place, White Sovereign King number 15, The Ascetic Rank 16, Purgatory Great Commander 17th place, Paragon Hua Qing number 18, Bamboo Mountain Prefecture Master 19th, Mysterious North Imperial Empress, number 44, Patrol Demon King No. 45, Pan Yu No. 46, Blind Old Man, 50th place, Purple Gown Hex Emperor No. 51, Hall Master Bei Hu No. 52, Emperor Dongbo, number 55, Old Ancestor Golden Firmament number 56, Lord Prison Ocean number 57, Nine Yang Palace Head, 100th, Forefather Vicious Tyrant. The names on the list were all titles. Very few people called them by their real names. Only Pang Yi and Pan Yu were direct names. Pang Yi was a little special. Back then, he had accepted disciples wantonly and was completely devoted to teaching. He was also very peaceful and had even publicly announced that he would abandon all titles and could directly call him by his name. As for Pan Yu, he was a powerful existence that rose up during the earliest period of the universe. He was originally an ordinary dog beast that cultivated step by step. After becoming a powerful existence, he had a good relationship with Monarch Hex Cricket. Later on, when Monarch Hex Cricket became a paragon, the two of them seemed to have a conflict and parted ways, rarely interacting with each other. In the vast universe, his strength is ranked in the top 100. Dongbo Shuang sighed in admiration. I never expected myself to be ranked 52nd, higher than the Nine Yang Palace Head, Old Ancestor Golden Firmament, and a bunch of other supreme existences. He was ranked 52nd. It was considered a very high ranking. His ranking was almost the same as the purple-robed Mage Emperor. But I think I still have many weaknesses when it comes to secret combat techniques. Dongbo Shuang pondered and said, for example, the Nine Yang Palace Head also has an absolute art. Why am I ranked above him? Is it because of the true God weapon and the huge advantage of defense? Dongbui Shuang guessed. He had not brought the true god weapon, flying dagger, into the darkness abyss, so he had not used it. But what kind of status did the primal master have? He should have known that if he joined the army of destruction, he would naturally have a true god-level weapon. A true god-level weapon could increase his power. When considering the ranking, the primal master would definitely include the true god weapon. The Nine-Yang Palace head did not have a true god weapon. In addition to his heaven-defying defense, even a paragon realm existence like the White Sovereign King, who specialized in slaughter, would only be able to damage the surface of his armor. This kind of defense was also his greatest advantage. It was probably because all of these factors were taken into account that he was given such a ranking. At the same time that the Primal Master imparted this Cosmos Deity Demon list to Dongbui Shuang, he also imparted it to other existences on the list. All of them discovered the changes in the list. Because it had not been long since the previous list was created, the most obvious difference was the appearance of Dongbui Shuang. He had caused the rest of the list to move back by one rank, and that the Monarch of Starfall had been kicked out of the list. Monarch Dongbui. That's that His Highness Dongbui Shuang. I've heard that God Emperor made him one of the 5 monarchs of the Bloodshed God Palace. He actually managed to rank 52nd so quickly. His senior disciple brother Monarch Guzong is only ranked 49th, Purple-Gowned Hex Emperor, who was currently cultivating under the tutelage of the Primal Master, praised. He did not care that his ranking was slightly higher. Purple-Gowned Hex Emperor was different from others. He did not care about absolute arts. Instead, he valued the various cultivation paths. Thus, even though he was ranked 50th, he had accumulated a great deal of experience. He specialized in many different paths, and any path would allow him to open his own Dao. It was not impossible for him to open several Daos in the future. I hope he doesn't pursue strength too much. Purple-Gowned Hex Emperor chuckled. Paragon Huacheng, who was seated by the side, glared at him. Purple-Gowned, don't say that about my brother Dongbui. With his cultivation speed, he would most likely transcend not long after. Don't let him transcend before you become a paragon. He is a member of the army of destruction. The moment he transcends, he has hopes of cultivating the absolute art of the army of destruction to an even more profound level. By then, he would most likely be able to fight against paragons. This isn't him being formidable. It's the absolute art created by the Lake Heart Island Master that is formidable. It's an absolute art created by the strongest existences across many epochs. It's normal for it to have such power. Purple-Gowned Hex Emperor said. Humph, he's not formidable. Paragon Huacheng was slightly annoyed. The Destruction Eden is right there. If you have the ability, you should go and give it a try. See if you can join the army of destruction. In our Cosmos epic, other than Pang Yi, only Brother Dongbui has done it. Isn't this strength? Purple-Gowned Hex Emperor was startled. That's right. Although there weren't many who knew about the Destruction Eden, there were still some who knew about it at the peak. However, they had all failed in their attempts. Only Pang Yi and Dongbui Shuang had succeeded. It's my fault. Purple-Gowned Hex Emperor laughed. To be able to become a member of the army of destruction, it is indeed strength. Humph, that's right. Paragon Huacheng said, oh right, Brother Dongbui has just informed me that he will be holding an opening banquet 3 months later. Are you going? I won't be going. I've gained a lot from this trip to the ancient cave dwelling. It's better for me to stay here and think quietly, searching for that bit of inspiration. Purple-Gowned Hex Emperor said, help me bring the gift over. Also help me inform Dongbui Shuang. I really don't wish to be distracted now. Alright, I understand. Paragon Huacheng nodded. He knew the temper of this new junior brother of his. Purple-Gowned Hex Emperor loved to cultivate and research. It was normal for him to cultivate for 10 billion years in one go. He had gained a lot from this trip to the ancient cave dwelling. Naturally, he wasn't willing to be distracted. All the pinnacle experts in this vast universe knew of Dongbu Shuang. From this day onwards, Dongbu Shuang had also entered their circle. Although the main purpose of this opening banquet was to invite his father-in-law, it was not a simple matter. However, those with higher statuses like Hall Master Bei Hu and Monarch Gu Zong were personally invited by Dongbu Shuang. Paragons like Bamboo Mountain Prefecture Master and Paragon Huacheng were personally invited by Dongbu Shuang. Regardless of whether they came or not, he had to invite them first. Dongbu Shuang had even personally invited a powerful existence, Old Ancestor Golden Firmament. Old Ancestor Golden Firmament has an old grudge with Jing Qiu. Jing Qiu wasn't wrong in this matter. However, against a powerful existence who has no attachments and is extremely proficient in the art of escaping, where even paragons find it hard to kill, there's no need to continue fighting. Dongbu Shuang thought, this is also a chance to resolve this. People like Old Ancestor Golden Firmament who had no attachments were the hardest to deal with. He might not be able to do anything to him, but he could definitely deal with Jing Qiu. Unless Jing Qiu continued to hide in his nest. However, he couldn't do anything to him. The other party's art of escaping was too powerful. Old Ancestor Golden Firmament, I'm Dongbu Shuang. Dongbu Shuang didn't have the other party's transmission imprint. Thus, he directly used the karmic connection to transmit a message to Old Ancestor Golden Firmament. Chapter 609. Dongbu Shuang. Why did you come looking for me after being listed on the Cosmos Deity Demon list by Primal Master? Forefather Golden Firmament transmitted back with a sneer. Oh, I almost forgot. Your ranking is above mine. Dongbu Shuang felt his heart clench. This Forefather Golden Firmament's tone was not right. Why were the Fierce Five of the deity world called the Fierce Five and not the Five Saints? It was because they were famous for their savagery. Even their leader, Pang Yi, was famous for his savagery. After all, they were born as deity world lifeforms, and were innately savage. It was only later that Pang Yi gradually changed. His greatest turning point was when he was heavily injured by a single punch from Monarch Green. Currently, Pang Yi had become extremely peaceful. There was no news of him becoming a ruler, but Primal Master had ranked him higher than one of the three rulers of the Abyss, Bloody Ruler. However, Pang Yi was peaceful, and the other four were still savage. With Pang Yi's current status, he would naturally not cause any more trouble. Only 4 of the Fierce Five remained, and these 4 were led by Forefather Golden Firmament. Forefather Golden Firmament had worked hard for the absolute art, Heart Sword diagram for hundreds of billions of years, and had even obtained 4 incomplete pieces of the diagram. The final incomplete piece of the Heart Sword diagram was located in a ruin which he and his companions had worked hard to decipher. At that time, Jing Qiu had unintentionally obtained it without experiencing any danger. Forefather Golden Firmament had long gone mad from anger. With his escaping skills, if he could obtain the complete and extremely powerful Heart Sword diagram, Old Ancestor Golden Firmament was confident that he would have a chance to compete with Patrol Devil Lord and the others. If he was lucky, he might even be inspired by the Heart Sword diagram and open up his own Dao. It was not impossible. But no matter what, this absolute art was lacking the final bit, and all his efforts were wasted. Forefather Golden Firmament originally guessed that Jing Qiu had failed in her reincarnation, and could only throw it to the back of his mind. But a few years ago, he received news that Dongbu Shuang had entered the Lake Heart Island and disregarded everything to save Monarch Mo Shui. Furthermore, Jing Qiu and Monarch Mo Shui were both staying in the Crimson Stone courtyard of the Bloodshed God Palace. More importantly, Jing Qiu was actually a stage 4 world deity. Jing Qiu, who came from the material realm, had actually reached the 4th heavenly layer before Dongbu Shuang. With such a fast speed, it probably surpassed the record of reaching the 4th heaven in history. He heard it again. Jing Qiu was an expert in swordsmanship. Patriarch Golden Firmament was no fool. With a little speculation, he understood that Jing Qiu must have reincarnated. In addition to her proficiency in sword techniques and her relationship with Monarch Imo Shui, she must be the eldest daughter of Monarch Imo Shui. Patriarch Golden Firmament. Dongbua Shuang was very calm as he sent a karmic voice transmission. I have no other intentions. It's just that Master has just conferred me the title of one of the 5 imperial monarchs. In the future, I will be residing in the Black Fog Sea. Therefore, I will be establishing my manor here. Naturally, I will be holding an opening banquet and inviting all my friends. The banquet will be held in 3 months' time. I hope that Patriarch Golden Firmament will be graced with your presence in 3 months' time. Oh? Alright, this forefather will definitely be there. Forefather Golden Firmament's voice was slightly sharp. He then cut off the connection. Dongbua Shuang smiled. He hoped to resolve the enmity between them, but there was a limit to his good temper. Whether he was a friend or a foe would depend on Forefather Golden Firmament himself. Of the 3 ancestors, Monarch of Destruction, Pang Yi, and Dongbua Shuang had sent a direct message through the internal system of the Bloodshed Tavern. No matter what, they were all from the Bloodshed God Palace, and on the surface, they had to be invited. However, Dongbua Shuang reckoned that the chances of them coming were low. After all, paragons would rarely condescend to participate in such matters. Even his teacher, Bloodblade and Dongbua Shuang, had invited him. Bloodblade directly replied, when the time comes, I'll let your 5th uncle master go over. He likes crowds. Such an occasion. Bloodblade would naturally not appear. 5th uncle master? Dongbua Shuang was puzzled. Who was it? It's your Blackbird uncle master. Bloodblade said, that thieving bird always calls himself 5th Highness. Blackbird uncle master. Dongbua Shuang muttered inwardly. This was the first time he had heard God Emperor call Blackbird his uncle master. He had initially thought that it was just a slightly unique pet, but from the looks of it, God Emperor and Blackbird seemed to have a brotherly relationship. In the following days. First, the personal guards and the Xia people deities who were originally in the Supervisor Envoy residence moved over. The Bloodshed God Palace also sent people over to set up the spacetime teleportation array. An enormous palace formed a luxurious residence. Above the entrance of the residence were naturally the 2 words Dongbua. From now on, this place was known as the Dongbua Residence. We're here. The white-robed Dongbua Yu walked out of the spacetime teleportation array. Beside him was a green-haired woman named Shiwei. Shiwei said, Your Highness Yu, your father and mother have been waiting anxiously for you. They said that you would be back in half a month, but they kept dragging it out. That's why they ordered me to bring you back. Dongbua Yu nodded lightly. So, you're not happy at all when you come to Black Mist Sea and see the Emperor Dongbua residence? Shiwei laughed. Dongbua Yu and Shiwei flew, simultaneously gazing at the enormous residence in the distance. The Emperor Dongbua residence was indeed enormous. After all, at Dongbua Shuang and Jing Qiu's level, they would need a lot of space just to test out their techniques or research spirit arrays. Naturally, the residence was even larger. It took up almost a tenth of the entire continent. The residence's main entrance and courtyard walls were similarly tall and towering. They were reinforced by multiple spirit arrays, including material spirit arrays. The main entrance was extravagant and huge. The 2 words Dongbua were personally written by Dongbua Shuang. These 2 words made the entire Dongbua residence seem deep and unfathomable, as if it was a huge world of its own. This feeling wasn't wrong. These 2 words were the core of an enormous spirit array. It was also a world spirit array that Dongbua Shuang had spent a month setting up after building the residence. The spirit array was a world spirit array. The Emperor Dongbua residence was a vast world of its own. Father personally wrote it? Dongbua Yu raised his head and looked at it. Of course. The Emperor is amazing, right? Shiwei praised. She also respectfully addressed Dongbua Shuang as the Emperor. She had personally witnessed Dongbua Shuang's rise to a height even higher than Holy Lord Crimson Dust. Amazing. A hint of a smile appeared on Dongboyu's face. Shi Wei muttered inwardly. He's finally smiling. When she found Dongboyu was actually drinking alone. He could clearly use his godly energy to cure himself, but he kept drinking. I have to inform the emperor and madam. Shi Wei thought, His Highness Yu seems to have suffered a blow. Could it be because of his feelings, or something else? Greetings, Your Highness. Greetings, Your Highness. The guards at the entrance bowed respectfully. They were all veterans of the personal guard. They all knew of Dongboyu and Shi Wei. They were all very proud of themselves. After all, the higher Dongbo Shuiying's status was, the greater the influence of their personal guard. Within an underground hall, Dongbo Shuiying sat cross-legged on an icy blue blanket. The blanket was soft and emitted a cooling feeling throughout his body. At this moment, he was isolated from all probing of laws. Dongbo Shuiying was currently holding a dark red talisman in his hand. This was the talisman formed from the sharp dark red shard left behind by the frozen corpse of the venerable and the other shard found in the three chieftains' sacred mountain. Dongbo Shuiying lowered his head and carefully examined the runes on it. Just this simple rune alone. Although it looks ordinary, it's actually unfathomable. Previously, it was just a shard, so he couldn't tell much. But now, it was a complete rune. The more he studied it, the more profound it seemed. Its level of profundity far surpassed his current realm. You're tuning into the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.